employees who has, I'm holding a medal on her behalf. So individual we're recognizing, of course, is Ms. Grossfield, Deb. So we're presenting today an Alberta Emergency Services Medal to Ms. Grossfield. This medal honors those who work in emergency services. And Deb, this is a 12-year medal, and I know you've been at this much longer than that. However, they go in increments of 12, 22, 32, and 40. You're way too young for a 40-year medal. However, certainly Deb's being awarded this medal today for her 12 years that we're recognizing of dedicated service. She has been a volunteer firefighter previously for 8 years, 2003 to 2011. And so thank you for that service. And since 2016, she served as either the director or deputy director of emergency management here at Nehill County. And just so you know, Deb, we do appreciate that work that you do on our behalf, but also you represent Nehill Regional Emergency Management Agency, and we appreciate that work that you do there as well. And of course, this crew of our protective services and Dan and the work that you do there as council, we recognize that. So it is my pleasure and my honor to be able to present this medal to you this morning. So if you want to come on up, I'll make that.
Thanks, Deb.
Good job, Deb. See, you have fans, Deb. All right, so I guess at this point it's 8:30, so I'll call our meeting to order, and I am going to ask if there are any additions to the agenda. Councillor Forbes.
Can we do an update on ASB Conference?
Okay, so 9.1, Ag Service Board Conference. Deputy Reid McGee.
I'd like to hear an update, present and hear an update on the BREWD celebration we were at.
9.2, BREWD, B-R-E. Okay, launch. Any others? Mr. Hogan.
With Council's indulgence, we'd like to add the Mountain View and Neighbors Women in Business Awards.
Okay, so
suggesting 7.6.
7.6. 7.6. Mountain View Women in Business Awards. Okay.
To you, Mr. Chair, we suggested 7.6. 5.4 would also work as well. Up to council.
Sorry?
5.4 under economic development would also work as well, but up to council.
Okay. Well, we'll leave it at 7.6, if that's okay. Any other additions to the agenda? I'm not even sure where I would put this, but I was wondering if it's on everyone's calendars, the CMRA meeting on February the 7th. And I don't know if that's an addition to the agenda, but it's certainly an addition to your calendar. That's the Central Zone General Meeting on the 7th of February. So just awareness, I guess, more than anything. Ponoka. All right, if there's no additions, other additions, Councillor Christie.
If not, I'll move the agenda as amended.
Okay, thank you for that. We have a motion to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. The council meeting minutes from January 14th have been pre-circulated. Are there any corrections or errors? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve. Councillor Forbes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have a motion to approve the regular council meeting minutes of January 14th. All those in favor? And that is also carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. So our first item of business this morning is a delegation from STARS. Welcome, Ms. Seeley. Good morning. What we'll do here is we'll do some introductions, so you know who you're chatting with here, and then we'll allow you to introduce yourself as well and make your presentation. I'll just say to you that we are streaming live and also recording, and we'll be on YouTube, so when you're speaking, just turn your mic on. It should turn red at the top, and you just have to push the button down, and then away you go. Okay? All right, so I'll start with Councillor on my right. Councillor Cunningham, please.
Good morning, Lordly Michelle Cunningham, Division 5. Thanks for coming.
Good morning, Jerry Whitstock, Division 3, that's the Acme-Linden area.
Good morning, Debbie Penna, Division 2.
And good morning, I'm Ken King. I represent the northeast portion of Neil County.
Good morning, I'm Faye McGee, Division 1, which is the southeast corner.
Good morning, Carrie Phillips, Division 4.
Wade Christie, and I'm in Division 6, northwest corner.
Morning, Mike Hogan, Chief Administrative Officer.
Good morning, Carolyn Vanicrow, Legislative Services Manager.
Good morning, Kevin Gannon, Director of Community Services.
Last one. Good morning, Teresa Cochran, Director of Corporate Services.
So again, welcome, Ms. Seeley, and the floor is yours, so please go ahead.
Good morning. As council may remember, I attended council last year with Glenda Farndon, so it's very good to see you again and an honor to bring you your annual update. I think it's quite apropos. There's a fire truck sitting here. This year's STARS is celebrating 40 years of serving Albertans. Critical care anywhere continues to be our everlasting focus, with over 60,000 missions flown to date. STARS is your best hope in a worst case scenario, and you are our reason for being. Just a little update on our, let's see, I'm clicking. I'm hitting the down arrow. Do I need to go? Push this one? Yeah. Okay. All right. So to bring you an update that thankfully we did secure another 10-year service agreement with our largest donor, Alberta Health Services. And that's at the $15 million per year in block funding. After that, we still must fundraise 56% of our budget to offset direct operating costs. So that comes from community-driven initiatives, business, individual, and corporate donations, and also the municipal initiative, which you've continued to stand by our side with. So thank you very much for that. Okay, a year in review. So this is up to our last fiscal year end, ending March 31st, 2024. So our emergency request center in Calgary, the dispatch center, I'm just going to go through the second line there. So we won't go through this entire infographic unless you have some specific questions. So the Emergency Link Center received over 37,000 emergency requests last year. That's an additional 1,000 requests over the year before. Across all 6 bases, we flew over 3,900 missions. And that's an increase of over 500 more missions. Our newly assessed base cost is $11.4 million, up from $10 million. So as you can see, as the missions increase, so do all of the expenses. On the right-hand column, you will see a breakdown of the types of missions that we fly for. Number one is vehicle incidents, and after that, it's cardiac. The rest are fairly close together there. Here's an update on our municipal map to show where all of the funding comes from across Alberta and Northeast BC. We're very thankful to welcome a number of new municipalities. Just to speak to a few in your area, the village of Acme has joined, and also Linden, village of Morin, and Bicycer, and Acme, Linden, Morin, Bicycer. Yeah, and there's a number across southern Alberta as well, with the city of Brooks also joining as our first rural city in southern Alberta. This is a breakdown of the different levels of support. So $2, like under the $2 per capita, shown across the map. Our regional leaders at $2 per capita, anywhere up to $90 per capita. So this is where many of the municipalities have gone to a fixed rate of support to alleviate fluctuations in census data, and have stars on a standing motion in their protective services budget. Our municipal leaders are shown in the green across the map. Many of these leaders have been honored with a logo on one or more of our helicopters. This year, Rocky View County will have a logo unveiling in July. Okay, our regional leaders are shown in with a red border around them, and of course Wheatland County to your south. To the south of you is the regional leader here. We're very close to with the MD of Taber and Town of Taber joining, as well as the village of Barnwell. We are almost to a full regional partnership in southern Alberta there. And within Kneehill County, we have several requests pending. I visited the town of Three Hills this fall, as well as Trochu, and I think I've been to everybody within the county boundaries so far. Let's see, Trochu, Carbon, we have a pending request with, and Linden is already on board. It's very much a united effort across the province. All right, so an update on your mission statistics up to the end of October of middle of October 2024. So 75 missions flown over the last 5 years, almost, and on average 18 missions per year. 16 missions per year. I need more Java this early in the morning. Thanks to your emergency services, many of these have been safely landed as scene calls throughout the county. And it's very nice to be here today to see the recognition of one of your members. An update on your postal code project. So 144 total residents flown since 2010. 81 were picked up within 3 Hills and 63 from 21 other locations. As you can see on the left side, we access patient postal code data only to get these numbers. So if there was somebody from a rural area that has a 3 Hills postal code, they would have been recorded under 3 Hills. And then on the right-hand side shows the different locations of where the patient was flown from across our Western Canada provinces. This is a snapshot of a mission log, basically a day in the life at STARS. So previously we were at 10 missions on average per year, and now we've gone up to 11 missions per year. Over 60,000 missions to date, like I mentioned. Our air medical crew and our helicopters cross provinces. So we're very much about sharing within the training and sharing our resources to be the most efficient. On this particular day at STARS, 18 missions came through the Emergency Link Center. And I'll just highlight a few of them for you. For example, mission number 3, this is where the STARS crew member actually flew out the NICU team to where a critically injured or critically ill newborn was. They provided critical care on site and then went by ground with the baby to the nearest hospital. Mission number 5. This was a rollover incident where actually the mission was canceled. STARS was dispatched and then turned back around as transport was no longer required. Number 7, workshop explosion. This mission was also canceled. Sometimes it's deemed that the patient is not able to fly, so the patient will then go by ground ambulance. Mission number 10, this was a motor vehicle collision where the STARS Air medical crew actually went by ground with the patient as well. So with having the STARS transport physician out of the Emergency Link Center, he or she determines the best mode of transport based on that patient's injuries and where all of the different assets are at. As you know, STARS is an innovator, from our night vision goggle capability for over 20 years now to carrying universal blood on board for over 10 years. Now a new blood product that was piloted first in Saskatchewan and came to Alberta in 2023. So this blood product is called fibrinogen, and it helps clot blood. So when the STARS crew member knows that the patient needs more than 2 units of blood, they can administer this medication to slow down the bleeding and give the patient a better chance at survival. I'd like to share with you our longest mission ever. And this was up in northern BC, as you can see. So what happened is a very important patient, Doug McTavish, was hiking, on a trip with a buddy, basically going on a hunting trip, where they drove up to the river, got in a boat, went 5 hours up the river, and then hiked for a couple of hours. Well, by this time, Doug realized that he was having a full-blown heart attack. And so they did not have cell phone service in the area, but they did have in-reach radios. So they were able to contact their emergency contact to say, hey, we need some help up here. Well, by this time it was getting later in the day, and it was too late for search and rescue to be dispatched. So they did not have the night vision goggle capability that we have. So they basically says, well, what are we going to do? And they said, well, let's give STARS a try. So our Emergency Link Center in Calgary made all of the logistical arrangements, and then STARS was dispatched from our Grand Prairie base. At that point, they went to Fort Nelson to get fuel, and then to Chi House where the patient was. But it wasn't quite that simple. STARS actually had to land, find an area between some trees where they could land on the side of a riverbank. And at that point, all 4 crew members put packs on their backs, went across the river, hiked up to where the patient was, assessed him, and brought him back down the mountain, across the river, and into the helicopter. At that point, their long journey back to Grand Prairie would begin. So 2,408 liters of fuel were burned, 1,763 kilometers flown, 8.2 hours of flight time, and 5.3 hours with the patient. 1 life saved. We're very proud of our crew members for the continuous training that they go through to work in inclement weather, to have the training in so many different areas for different types of emergencies. So we appreciate everything that they're able to do. I want to thank Kneehill County so much for your continued support and your lift last year to the $5,000 fixed rate. As you could tell by the earlier stats we shared, that we have increased mission volume and base cost. So our request is to move to $7,500 fixed rate, which would be $1.50 per capita for 2025. In addition to the missions flown to your area, we do provide virtual care to the medical professionals at the rural hospital. So that's in addition, another way that we can provide critical care anywhere. So together we are enhancing rural health care. And for over 40 years, our donors make it possible. So a life is saved every day, and your partnership makes it possible. Thank you, Kneehill County.
Okay, well, thank you. Are there any questions from council for Jackie? Councillor Cunningham.
I don't have a question, but I say it every year and I have to say it again. My dad lived 3 more years because of stars, so I will bang the drum for stars till the day that I'm not on this earth anymore. One thing that I find interesting is I think we think about stars flying into our area, and I know you have the one graph. I'm not really that good at math, but I did a quick calculation, and if I'm understanding it correctly, about 40 residents from this area were picked up by stars outside of Kneehill County. So I think if that, because it's got like Red Deer, residents flown from 21 other locations. So I always think of stars landing within our borders, but then I think I forget about, you know, one of our residents could be in Red Deer or like Lacombe, Fox Creek, and so I think it's really important to highlight that as well. It's not only the stars flying into here, but picking our folks up in other places too. So, and I think I mentioned last year I did get to see the new helicopter in Rumsey, and it's great to see it up close when you're not having to take a flight on it, but amazing, the capabilities, the ultrasound machine on board, and yeah, it's an amazing sight to see. So thank you for everything that you and all your folks do for us.
Well, thank you very much. And you made an excellent point there with the Postal Code project. It does show how your residents are supported by stars across Western Canada, and is testament to the value of our partnership and the level of commitment that you have given to your residents.
Councillor Pinner.
There's a lot more cross-border going on. You guys have helicopters in the Western provinces here. When it comes to funding or fundraising, does that money stay within Alberta, or is it one big pot with the 3 different provinces?
Well, so in Alberta, the numbers that I showed you there, the 56% of the remaining funds that we must fundraise, that's around 19 million. And which I should add with that, 10 million is actually coming from the Stars Lottery, which is now open for anyone that's interested in that. So the numbers that I showed there were Alberta numbers. So 19 million in addition to our government funding must be fundraised. And then, you know, there are some of the funds that are shared across the provinces, but not any of the municipal funds. So any municipal funding that comes from Alberta stays in Alberta. And then there are other agreements in Saskatchewan and Manitoba where they have government agreements or they have municipalities that support them there. as well as if a donor requests, like say if it was a business or individual corporation, if they request that their funding stay in Alberta, then that's where it will stay. Some businesses may want to, see it shared across the provinces if they have, they may be an international company or, have businesses in other provinces.
Go ahead, Councillor Penner.
Another question, would you be able to elaborate a little bit more on the partnership you have with Hero and Halo?
Okay, so
Please.
STARS as the dedicated critical care provider in Alberta, we do all of the dispatching. So we do dispatch Halo and Hero. And so that is to provide, the best chance at survival for that patient. So the STARS transport physician is able to consider the type of injuries the patient has and then what resources are in the area. So whether the best mode of transport for the patient is by ground or if it's by, Halo or Hero. So to give you an example, let's say if there's an incident or illness that occurs in Southeast Alberta where Halo is, then, so the STARS transport physician would determine what is best. So it could be a case where we're working together. In many cases it is, where Halo may bring the patient to Medicine Hat Hospital or Tabor or Lethbridge Hospital, and then if the patient is critical, then STARS is on the way from Calgary to pick up that patient. Or there may be other, like Newton's Cradle type of situation where, we meet halfway somewhere to transfer the patient. So all working together to provide the patient the best chance at survival.
Are there any other questions? Deputy Reeve McGee.
You go back to the funding. On your first slide, you did a great job of showing us the breakdown of how funds are coming into. Would you say each of the provinces have a similar breakup, or is it different?
Their budgets are different than ours.
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly what their government contribution is. I believe it's fairly similar to ours as far as percentage wise, but I'm not as sure on the exact amount.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you.
Is there any other questions, comments? If, Councillor Christie.
Just a comment, your mileage isn't very good. I really appreciate your service and I just hope I don't ever need it. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you don't need it either. But we will be here for you if you do.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, if there are no other comments, I'm going to say thank you very much, Jackie, for being here today. We appreciate the annual update, and the fact that you come and let us know what's happening in the STARS world is important, not only to us, but to our residents who either perhaps are watching now or might watch later. And so we recognize STARS as a valuable partner in what happens on the emergency side of our lives. Like Councillor Christie says, I love seeing you fly by. I don't necessarily want you to have to fly into my yard, right? And so, but I appreciate the fact that it's there. The opportunity's there, and we have that backup, which is critical in rural Alberta. So our thanks to what STARS is doing, and we will have a conversation later in our meeting around your request today. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you to council. I have also brought the 40th anniversary STARS calendar with me, as well as the most recent Horizons magazine. So this calendar is basically a then and now of many of our VIP, very important patient stories. And so there's also a page where you can see kind of the history of STARS in there, as well as when our different bases opened and different milestones were achieved. So I'll leave one set with your office here and one set for the fire department. As you know, we greatly appreciate everything that they do. Working out to land a helicopter, and yeah, so thank you very much.
All right, well, thanks for being here so bright and early. We appreciate that.
You're welcome. It's time for my second cup of coffee. Have a great day.
And you as well. Travel safe. All right. Thank you again, Ms. Seeley. So the next item in our agenda is 5.3.1, which is the Protective Services Report. And so welcome back, Ms. Grossfield. Seem to have a theme running here. Welcome, Ms. Grossfield, and anytime you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Council. Which is the first one? The RCMP report. Okay. So I am bringing to you the Protective Services Report. Background is that we bring this to you hopefully every quarter. We have 5 RCMP detachments in our area, and the community priorities were set each year. These community priorities will be reassessed again in 2025. We have all the departments coming back again to do that presentation at the end of February. And then you can have that conversation with them about the new community priorities if you'd like to change those at all. The RCMP reporting, so from July to September, all of those stats have been compiled and put into the package. And there's also a FAQ document that's been attached regarding civilian governance committees. I just received an email as well regarding a public consultation survey that's been launched by the RCMP, and that's due on February 14th. And so that's an email that will be coming to you from our CAO, and it's on RCMP transparency in multi-stakeholder trust forum. So that's what that is. And then also there is a request, again, if you wanted to meet with the K Division at your spring conference. And so that's something to consider as well, because RCMP will need that information back to them if you so choose to do that. So enforcement services. So our stats so these ones are from August 16th to December 20th. We had a few more traffic citations, and so 15 of those included violation tickets, and six of those 25 were going well past 25 over the speed limit. So good catches there in regards to some public safety files for sure. There was 2 animal control files, and then some other files. 2 suspicious vehicles were found. 163 hours, including hamlets in just rural patrols. There was 18 targeted patrols, so those are specific to road complaints for certain sections of the roads. And then there was 11 school activities with Halloween and Remembrance Day that kind of kept all the different peace officers hopping. And then we also assisted other departments, including the planning department. Within the contracted municipalities, we had 55 contracted hours, but that's for 6 months. So just so you know, that's what that is. That's when those were all compiled. So I also attended the Association of Community Peace Officers conducted a survey, and that was through Clearwater County Council resolution. So they did a bit of a risk assessment on the tools available for CPOs in their line of duties and the risks associated with those duties. So some of the recommendations that came out of that report that they're going to further lobby the RMA for if they can get to a council resolution. These recommendations include enhanced incident reporting under provincial standard. So lots of municipalities don't even have a records management system. Nehill County already has that in place, so we have a different software for that. In-car access to CPIC, so that's when they can actually pull up the police files and kind of see if they have a background, like a warrant or something against them. That's something that we have. Officer monitoring, that was something that was changed following the Lazenby inquiry. And so there is a mandate that officers need to be tracked at all times. So we actually already have that set up with Lacombe Dispatch. So they are tracked on a map all the time, and then they have to like report back in every 15 minutes. They also check in when they go to a bylaw enforcement call, so that if they go up to knock on somebody's door, within 15 minutes, dispatch will check on them to make sure that they're good. Because bylaw enforcement is one of the more, again, dangerous, risky jobs. Mandatory equipment wearing, body cameras. Again, Nehill County already has these in place. Allowing to apply the conducted energy weapons. So these are tasers. So this is something that the AACPO would like to do. Again, we don't have those. And my recommendation is that we don't, but this is what the AACPO wants to do. And so basically what they're asking is that some municipalities would like these. And so they're asking for the ability to ask for them. Just like shotgun. Not all municipalities have shotguns, and that's for more animal control, like bears. But that's an option that they can ask for. And then annual training for firearms. Use of force and de-escalation. Again, we kind of do some internal training on that. And there is a recertification process, and I believe it's every 4 years that they have to do use of force. So that's handcuffs, baton, OC spray. So the next steps is that Clearwater County is going to ask another municipality for support for that resolution to go to RMA, and I believe that's already done. And then, again, the contracts with the urbans, they've been extended with the MOUs that you guys have done for the intermunicipal collaboration frameworks. Any questions on the peace officer stat stuff? Good.
Okay.
So emergency management, so that is, again, the report until December 2024. So we've been working with a lot of the other departments in the municipality on business continuity planning and critical service plans, so that each department has that stability within their department to survive impactful event. And so this will be going to the SLT in February now. ICS 300 training in November had 16 attendees, and 9 of those were from Nehill County staff, including Public Works, Transportation, Finance, and Planning. Again, just trying to cross-train a little bit more on the emergency management function so that we have a better incident management team when we actually do respond to the next emergency. We met with Alberta Emergency Management Agency as they transition through the field officers. And we're set to have our annual review in March. So we need to have our Emergency Management Advisory Committee, which is representatives from council that sit on that advisory committee. And they go over like our hazard assessments, just to kind of see where the risks are, if they've changed, and what we as an agency, which is the CIOs and DEMS, are doing in the background to prepare and mitigate those emergencies. And then we also attended and helped organize the CRAMIT, so Central Region All Hazards Incident Management Team Workshop in Red Deer, just to go over deployments for some new procedures for deployments with the province, and how we're going to be deployed as a team to go fill in for some of those emergencies. Under fire, so, oh, yes.
Councillor Penner.
If one of our municipalities within the county doesn't have a DEM, how does that work? Because I've seen a sign looking for a DEM. So does the Nehill County's DEM just, or is there, sorry, I'm not sure if this is the right place to ask the question, but I was just wondering.
Yeah, through the chair. So right now I'm the DDEM for many of those villages, and so they kind of have a DEM, but just because we're kind of the backup for them. But they are still looking for an actual appointed DEM from the village of Carbon. But they do have a backup, and that's, yeah.
Thank you for that. No, clarification is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, you bet.
All right.
All right.
Yep, go ahead.
Fire services. So we are doing a bit of a review of our burn permit system after a few different incidents have happened. And so we're kind of reviewing that policy and the procedures around that, including fire guardians and how to support them better when people take out fire permits. And so we're working on a policy or procedure to bring back to council, including in there, we also have the fire services bylaw that needs to be updated. And so that will kind of go hand in hand as well, just because that needs to be, it's been a while since that's been reviewed. In between August and December, we did have 2 fire occupancies under the Fire Safety Codes accreditation. We had, we had planned and now hosted the Torrington Fire Appreciation and Awards Night for January 11th, and thank you for council's support and attendance at that. The burn structure addition project has been completed, and so that was a capital project from 2024. And so that now is a bit of like a platform that's coming off the 2nd story. So they can clean out the burn permit area, or sorry, burn chamber area better so that they can actually do it more safely, because before that they were like kind of scooping up the ashes and throwing them out. And so it's, yeah. So it's a safer disposal. Red Deer City Dispatch has upgraded their CAD system, and so there's been some discrepancies on the mapping locations, and so that's still something. Google Maps doesn't quite match what Dispatch is doing, and so there's a few discrepancies on the mapping side. And so when addresses change here, it's pulled every, I'd say 3 months. I think it's every quarter that new mapping system is pulled, but sometimes it doesn't relate to Google, right? Google, so just the way that they're being dispatched out. So it's a little bit, that's still an ongoing, will always be mapping. So that's kind of that. Yeah.
Councillor Penner.
So if a resident, and I know a resident that has trouble, they live right on 575 and they're not right at an intersect, right, not, you know, the house isn't right there, they can't find them. But if they put in that range road, they find them. So should residents notify the county, come in and say, we cannot be found? Like how are you finding these people? I guess that this CAD program isn't 100% for.
Well, any information that the caller can give for direction-wise is sometimes also helpful when you have a dispatcher. I mean, sometimes they type in an address and it goes to like, whatever, the middle of downtown Red Deer. Like it's weird just the way that they kind of type in the addresses. But yes, for sure, they could absolutely call us and we can take a look at that address and see if there's anything that we can do to change that. I believe right now we have a bit of a process going on right now to change some of those addresses that are hard to find, because some of those places have an ABCD on the same property and the signs aren't right at the front, or maybe they're all right at the front, but then there's none on the doors. So just even stuff like that. So yeah, anytime you can report those and tell your residents to report them, that would be great. Yeah, very helpful. Also part of the mapping upgrades is that common names is also being added. So instead of having whatever, 1600 2nd Avenue, like it would be the Nehill County Office Administration Building or the Nehill County Shop. And so that's some of those common names are being attached to them. So when we talk about Hesketh or Sharples, at least we kind of know that area. So it's not just, yeah, it just kind of adds to the more information you can give dispatch, the better, of course. So, yeah. And then the other two that we had is that the Trochu Fire Hall lease agreement has been updated with minor changes. And then AFRAX, sorry, I'm kind of adding this a little bit, but there has, just in case you've heard, that there has been a few issues with the AFRAX. So that's the Alberta radio system that we've moved to. And so the towers in the Linden and Carbon area, it's a provincial system now that we're on for emergency services. And so sometimes there's some issues. And so Dan has been working with their engineering to fix those issues and try to alleviate some of them, just because, again, it's just bad areas, bad service areas. So anyway, so just thought I'd let you know that that is being worked on for sure. And then we have received the RFPs for the brush trucks for Three Hills and for carbon. And so right now, they've come within the budgeted amount, so. Yes, and so those have been signed, and so they've been ordered. And again, the attachments are there for you from the RCMP statistical reports. And the council options are that council approves the Protective Services Report January 2025 as presented, amend the recommendations, or administration to come back with more information.
So I guess I would have a question, and not specific to your report here, but can you confirm whether the Nehill Regional Emergency Management Advisory Committee meeting has been set yet or not?
I have given a deadline of January 30th for people, and so I'm waiting for 2 municipalities yet. But it will be either February 19th or 26th.
All right.
We're pushing for the 19th.
Okay. I know somebody would appreciate that effort.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions or discussion with the information? Certainly, thank you. Very comprehensive and a lot of information in there, so it's appreciated. Councillor Penner, please.
You were mentioning, Ms. Grossfeld, about the RCMP members coming in February here. I look forward to that conversation, and especially with our Fields detachment on the drug side. The numbers are unbelievably high, but it'll be interesting to have the conversation with them. So looking forward to it.
Deputy Reeve McGee.
And just to add to that, not that you need it, but just a hint for me, I would love to see this report added again, that meeting to the package, if you could, so that I can refer to that report again when they're here. Just a little request, if that works.
All right.
Just for clarity, so this exact same report instead of an updated stats? I just want to make sure that's clear. Okay.
Just the RCMP portion.
Portion, okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right, any other questions, comments, discussion? Councillor Christie.
Thank you very much for the report, and I appreciate the information, so I'll make the motion to approve the Protective Service Report January 2025 as presented.
Okay, thank you for that. So we do have a motion to approve the Protective Services Report as presented. Are there any further discussion to the motion? If not, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. And certainly, please pass our thanks along to all of those who are working on our behalf in the area of emergency management. That includes yourself and the support crew that was here earlier this morning when you were being recognized. We value what they do here, and appreciate if you just pass that message along to them.
You bet, thank you.
So that they hear it as well, so. And again, congratulations on your.
Thank you.
Now, I suppose you're not leaving because you want us to deal with the next one.
Not yet.
Which, Mr. Hogan.
Just through Mr. Reeve, I believe in Ms. Grossfield's presentation, there was the question in there about the upcoming upcoming
right.
spring convention.
Thank you.
In there, so as of right now, without a direction or motion from council, we would not request that meeting. So I just wanted to alert council to that.
Yeah.
Unless we hear otherwise.
Okay, I think at this point, we're not hearing otherwise, so I'm going to go on to 5.3.2, which is the appointment of Torrington Fire Chief and Deputy Fire Chief. And again, Ms. Grossfield, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. So today I'm bringing to you the appointment of the Torrington Fire Chief and the Deputy Fire Chief. And so this is every 2 years. We have to bring this back to council. So as per the bylaw, the appointment reviewed on a 2-year basis, and the district fire chief will report directly to the county fire chief for fires within Nehill County. And so we're requesting that Jason Mickelson, who has served as the Torrington Fire Chief since August 2018, and Derek Benedict, who has served as the Torrington Deputy Fire Chief since September 2018. and Derek received his 32-year medal just last month. And so that's who we are recommending, and the Torrington Fire Chief and the Deputy Fire Chief receive an honorarium for their service under the budget code already. That's in our operating budget. And so the council options are that council appoints Jason Mickelson as the Torrington Fire Chief and Derek Benedict as the Torrington Deputy Fire Chief for a 2-year term to January 31st, 2027. Should either of these members leave the department, their positions would be deemed vacant immediately. Or option 2 is that council recommends administration provide more information at a future meeting.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have a recommendation to appoint Jason Mickelson and Derek Benedict as respective Torrington Fire Chief and Torrington Deputy Fire Chief. What's the wish of council? Councillor Penner.
I want to thank both these individuals as well as the rest of the department for putting the name, for these two for putting the name forward, but the department as a whole for what they do for the county. So I'd make that motion that council appoints Jason Mickelson as Torrington Fire Chief and Derek Benedict as the Torrington Deputy Fire Chief for a 2-year term to January 31st, 2027. Should either of these members leave the department, their position will be deemed vacant immediately.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Penner. So we do have the motion to appoint Jason Mickelson as the Torrington Fire Chief and Derek Benedict as the Torrington Deputy Fire Chief for a 2-year term. Is there any further conversation, discussion, questions related to the motion? If not, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Again, thank you, Ms. Grossfield, and please pass our thanks along to these two individuals for their willingness to continue serving. And the event that we had in Torrington on the 11th of January was amazing. It was a fun event, and maybe pass our thanks along to our own fire chief, Mr. Marcellus, regarding that event, and just thank him for continuing to provide that recognition that these volunteers so well deserve. So, thank you.
Thank you. Carrie would like a break.
Yeah, I was just, okay. All right, so I've had a request for a recess, so we will be in recess till 9:30. So we're in recess. We'll recommence at 9:30. Okay, it's 9:30, so I'm going to call our meeting back to order. In our agenda, we are now at 6.1, Sunnyslope, also named insured request. And Mr. Nyman, welcome. And anytime you're ready.
So I bring to this morning a request from the Sunnyslope Community Association to join our insurance as an additional named insured. Just a little background. They approached us to, their current insurance has become cost prohibitive for their association, and they asked if they could become additional named insured. So I had them fill out all the required paperwork with RMA. They were approved by RMA to be included on our policy, and they were also happy with the quote. The quote would give them quite a significant cost saving to what they're paying right now. So basically, we would do the same thing as we do with all our other ANIs. We would charge them every time we get charged from RMA. We just bill them through accounts receivable, and yeah. So basically, the council options are to approve the request from Sunnyslope Community Association to receive insurance as additional named insured, to not approve the request from Sunnyslope Community Association, or to receive for information.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Are there any questions for Mr. Nyman? If not, what would be the wish of council? Councillor.
Sorry, my bad. I thought she was gonna raise her hand, so.
Councillor Forbes.
I would make the motion that council approves the request for the Sunnyslope Community Association to receive insurance as an additional named insurer under New Hill County's insurance policy with RMA.
Okay, thank you for that. So we do have a motion that we approve the request from the Sunnyslope Community Association to receive insurance as an additionally named insured under Neil County's insurance policy. Is there any discussion to that motion? Not seeing any, so I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Nyman.
Thank you.
You can pass the good news on to
Yep.
Sunnyslope Community Association.
I will let them know today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item in our agenda is 7.1, Master Rates Bylaw 1912. And Ms. Vanderkool, I believe this one has your name on it.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Eve. And so today I'm bringing the Master Rates Bylaw 1912. I presented this bylaw at the January 14th council meeting. All the amendments are outlined in Schedule A. Under the headline amended changes at first reading, we changed the bylaw to change the fire safety code's mileage and the fire safety code's investigation services mileage to the current CRA mileage rate from 75 cents per kilometer. Under the heading proposed new fees, I reviewed these at the last meeting. It was just a new fee from the planning department for notification on behalf of applicant and the gravel stockpile lease rate. Under the proposed changes to existing fees, we changed the dust control to as per council resolution and changed the garbage tipping fee for non-residential. We removed all those out of the bylaw, and the water charges were updated from the budget discussions.
Okay.
So sorry.
No, you go ahead.
So at the last meeting, the bylaw received first and second readings. So today we're asking council to provide third and final reading to bylaw 1912. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Eve.
Sorry for stepping on your toes there. So I guess, are there any questions? Is there any discussion? I know at our last meeting, my sense was perhaps there was some things that were left unsaid or undecided, and I'm just looking for clarification. Are we prepared to move forward, or is there some discussion that we need to have before we make a motion to approve? Councillor Phillips, please.
Just for clarity and for those that are watching, can you remind me why we have different rates between Huxley and Wimborne and then the rest of the county? Just for, because people are gonna see it and wanna ask, so.
So Huxley and Wimborne are on groundwater wells, and as a consequence, they have a lower rate. And the rest of our water systems are on water that comes through Aqua 7, and so the water rate is higher for those customers. I don't know if that clarified, and I'll ask Mr. Hogan if we need further. But
Also for the sewer as well, because that's not on the system, not the way water is. And so just for clarity for both water and sewer, because those rates are different.
okay. So, Mr. Hogan, perhaps you want to tackle that one.
Through Mr. Reeve, the short answer is the same one that you gave, is those two are separate systems that are, usually your sewer is dependent on your water rate, on the assumption that whatever comes in with water, a certain percentage of that is going out as sewer. So again, those are rates that should be reviewed at some point. The water rate review is coming back to council in the near future. But the short of it is that they're on they're on well systems for the water component. Sewer is related to that. The rest of the county systems are being fed through some form of regional distribution, be it Aqua 7 or the town of Three Hills.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further discussion or questions? Anything else that needs clarification before we move forward? Councillor Cunningham.
Sure, I have a couple, and so just to provide clarity on where I was at with this. I noticed with the one fee, we were gonna charge $1 for the administration of additional fee from the planning department. I guess a question that I would have is $1. So are we feeling that the cost of administering that $1 will be recouped by that, or are we gonna be at a loss? Because it just, I mean, I'm happy that a fee is only $1, but I guess my question is it costing the county more to administer that than we are in collection?
Mr. Hogan.
Through the chair, we believe $1 is sufficient. It'll be something that we have to monitor. If it proves not to be in the future, we would bring that back for a recommended increase. In that $1, that is literally us printing the mailing labels, putting them on the envelopes and sending them out. Under that process, those envelopes are coming to us postage paid, so we're not incurring the envelopes or the postage component of that process.
Go ahead, Councillor Cunningham. Yeah.
So to me, I guess, with such a low fee, I do wonder, our ratepayers do pay taxes, and because they are providing their own envelope, I just find it a little curious on that, but I mean, it's not a hill I'm gonna die on. I know I did ask questions to the dust control last time. This is a me problem, this isn't a staff problem. I still am having struggles with the cost recovery on that, because I have people that contacted me that said they feel that they're paying more than what the cost is. So again, not gonna die on the hill on this one, but I guess maybe going forward, if I could get a little bit more clarification on that, because what people are seeing is that we are making a profit on that it's not just kind of an even keel program. So I guess just a little clarification for me on that. And the third one would be, so we have a bylaw currently that we've tabled to get more information, and that included some of the gravel and grader policies. So it was a policy, not a bylaw. Anyways, it's kind of up in the air. So I guess I'm just wanting some clarification when we're not sure where we're gonna go with the private lane snow plowing and that type of thing. If it's still sitting in our master rates bylaw, but it comes out of that other piece where, like, do these two documents have to marry each other, I guess is what I'm wondering.
So
Mr. Hogan.
Through Mr. Reeve, so the dust control item, we can bring that information back on when that comes back to council for setting the price this year. That program is run on a cost recovery basis. It's never going to be exact because it is based on estimates at the beginning, so we'll never hit it to the penny. But when we get the quotes back on the calcium and the spec crude estimate on what we're going to put into there, that information we can include when we bring back the recommended price setting for council closer to the date. The laneway plowing, no, the documents don't have to marry. Ideally, they should, but there's no, as one changes, then there's always updates that have to occur to the other one. It's not a big concern if the laneway plowing is taken out of the policy but is left in the master rates bylaw. It's just an item that we used to do that we don't do any further. And that's only if council goes that direction, right? If council chooses to continue to provide that service, then there is a charge in there. The policy, the draft policy that was brought forward to council for discussion also outlined that if laneway plowing would continue for this current winter, so even if that had been taken out of the policy, it was still a service that was going to be provided for the remainder of this winter. So there would still have to be a price in the bylaw related to that.
Okay, and just for clarity of my own thinking, Councillor Cunningham, were you thinking we should be charging a higher fee on that notification mailing?
I was thinking we should be it should just be a service we provide, because I think if they're coming in to do, like if it's a subdivision or whatever, they're already paying a fee, correct? So to charge $1 on top of that, to me, just, like I said, there's gotta be a little bit of an administration fee or a cost for us as a county. And I just wonder if it's costing us more to administer that $1 fee than we are getting back. They are paying that fee for that planning subdivision or whatever it is we're doing, so. And then I guess just in terms of that dust control, and that maybe this is going back to the other policy, but just going forward, like what I'm wondering and what I hear from our people is, and I understand it's hard to know what the price is actually gonna come out as, we all live in that world right now. So if it comes back quite a bit lower, are we ever gonna lower that fee for dust control when our costs become lower? Are we gonna pass that on to the ratepayer, that lower cost? Or do we just keep it at a certain cost?
Mr. Hogan, if you would.
Through the REEV, that's a determination of council. Council sets that rate through resolution. So when that, historically, when that item's come forward to council, there's been, we have the prices as current as they are when we bring that forward, because those are what we're building the recommendation on. So our direction right now is for that to be a cost recovery program. So if we ever did see a sharp decline, then it would be up to council as to what direction you wanted to go there. Back to the dollar per envelope, so that the rates that we have in place, those are the ones charged to the prospective developer. So the subdivision, anything like that, that's the prospective developer paying those. The subdivision rate is theoretically attached to the work involved in processing the subdivision. The rate that we're proposing for the envelope is an additional service that we would provide on top of a normal subdivision. And really when we see those is when we have a larger third party that needs to do a notification area, but under FOIP, we can't give them the contacts of those. We can't give them the contacts for that additional notification or that additional material they want to send out. So we're caught in a place where we're saying, okay, we have that information, we could send it out for you. And that's really the service we're charging that fee for. If an individual had to, because it is per envelope, if an individual had to send out 50 notifications, we'd print off 50 mail tabs and their fee would be $50. So again, it's up to council. If you want to see that higher, you can. That dollar figure is, I believe, we've come up with and similar to what some other municipalities charge. And in large part where we've seen that in the past is really on the wind and solar files.
Okay, so does that help clarify that situation? So basically what you're saying is this is a mail-out fee that's mainly charged to large developments like wind and solar.
Historically, so far, yes. It wouldn't be confined to wind and solar. It would be anytime we had to do this, but this isn't the standard notification that we do. This is when there's broader stuff to go out.
Okay, so under our normal process, the notifications that we do within our own process, that's, as you use the word standard process, there is no fee attached to those notifications that are sent out.
Under our standard process, no.
Okay. All right. And just a comment on the dust control, that is, like you said earlier, that is a decision of council related to what we're charging for that, and it's based on information that we receive from, in this case would be our transportation people, and I guess if, none of us likes to pay, in my case, the last year's price on spec crude, which was $62 a meter, but I definitely like what it does for my road. However, if you could reduce that cost in any way, I'd gladly take that reduction. So I guess, are we at the point now where we have the information that we need? And if so, okay, Councillor Forbes, please.
So on page 107 of our package, at the bottom, under parks and cemeteries, you put prepayments and deposits only refunded within 72 hours notice, but there's no mention to the percentage that we charge for them using their credit cards. I would like to see that attached, just so that anyone who happens to be reading this knows if you use your credit card, whatever our percentage was at that time, 2 or 3%, whatever it was. I think that needs to be clarified for the public.
Okay. Does that say anywhere on the website when they're booking that there's a charge for credit card payment? That's what you're looking for, right?
I just want to make it clear that if someone's reading this, that it's there, that if you use a credit card, we charge a percentage. So there's nothing hidden.
It's not vague.
Correct.
Okay. So would that be a more general statement that we would want to have in here? Because anything that we would take credit card payment for, whatever fee, we add that additional, do we not, Mr. Hogan?
That's correct. That would be a more general item, not a specific one, because it is charged on every credit card transaction that the county does.
So where in our master rates schedule, where it says most goods and services are listed, are subject to GST, could we just add an additional note there that said any credit card transaction payment will be subject to whatever our 2% or 3% or whatever that happens to be at that point?
Through you, Mr. Yu, I believe we refer to it as a convenience fee,
Okay,
but we can check that wording.
yeah, but I guess my question would be first to Councillor Forbes and then to yourself, would that be a more appropriate?
Yes, I would just like it to be transparent for the public that are looking at our website.
Okay. No, that's a good comment, thank you.
And through the Reeve, I don't think it hurts to put it in a few places if it needs to be shown, but I think on page 2 of the Schedule A, right at the top where those bullets are, that's one good place to put it as a bullet point.
Okay, are there any other comment or discussion related to our master rates bylaw? Councillor Penner.
I hear earlier what Councillor Cunningham was saying about that dollar. For me to justify here, I'm just thinking about it now, is I guess we have ratepayers say we weren't notified, we didn't know anything about it from the companies, whereas this way, by us saying that we're charging $1 per envelope, label, or whatever, to give that information out, the FOIP information, like the addresses, now we can say that, yes, you should have been notified because we gave that information to them. I don't like to nickel and dime our ratepayers either constantly, but I think this is one way of guaranteeing that everybody should be notified of an application, that adjoining landowners.
Councillor Christie.
The other part of that is that we're also dealing with FOIP properly. And that's, that visibility I think is really important.
Mr. Gannon.
Thank you, through the chair. Councillor Christie is quite correct, is that we can't hand this information over to developers to notify our ratepayers. So in essence, we've had some larger files that have required hundreds of notifications, and we wanted a recovery method within that for those developers, because the permit doesn't pay for that excessive amount of notification for those who are impacted. So they're looking at trying to recover just for the label and the process of actually putting them out and sending them out. The envelopes come pre-stamped. It's just the simple nature of printing those addresses, putting them on the envelope and sending them out. As a recoverable, the team also did some comparatives out there. Other communities do the same as charging this, because the level of advising is different depending on the development. So we wanted to make sure that we did capture it in one method or another.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Cunningham.
Not really a question, just a comment. It would be curious to me then how these companies find everybody's address to send them information about their projects, if that's through FOIP. They are getting addresses somehow, but not through here, obviously, but yeah, just curious. Not sure how that works.
Councillor Penner.
I guess just my comment to that, why I brought it up was this way, I don't know how they're getting them, and I don't even know if everyone is getting notified, but by us offering the service, maybe they will all be getting notified. I feel better as a councillor.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments or discussion related to either this specific fee or the master rates bylaw in general? Councillor Phobes, please.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds. I just gotta get up.
Oh, sorry.
So just for clarification for me, on the top, on page 102, where it shows the bylaw 1912, we will be changing that unanimous consent from third reading was provided on January the 14th, because it was not unanimous that day.
Before you sign it.
Before we sign it.
There. That's updated.
Yeah.
Yes, that will be updated. That's my apologies. I just forwarded the attachments to this next RFD.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Deputy Reeve McGee.
I'm ready to suggest that we have final reading to bylaw 1912, that being a bylaw to establish rates, fees, charges for various operations, products, permits, and services, with the last amendment we spoke about today around the credit card being used. So how do you want me to word that last phrase?
Mr. Hogan.
So through Mr. Reeve, I think the motion would just be that council give third reading as amended.
Okay.
Obviously, the rest of the motion as well, but as amended. Just for council's awareness, what will be inserted under the Schedule A under master rates, underneath the point about GST, there would be an additional point in the wording would be that credit card transactions are subject to a convenience fee as per the acceptable methods of payment policy.
Perfect.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, so we do have a motion that council provide third and final reading to bylaw 1912 as amended. That being a bylaw to establish rates, fees, and charges for various operations, products, permits, and services. Is there any further discussion to the motion? Any further discussion? If not, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is 7.2, Canada Post engagement. And Mr. Hogan, if you would, please.
Through Mr. Reeve, this is correspondence that the county received from the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. So I do want to make that clarification. This is not received from Canada Post itself, but from the union representing representing some of the postal workers in the nation. The we've put this before council, and I guess our first question that we have to council from administration is, do you want to take part or not? What they're requesting is that we send a letter on their behalf to the federal labor minister, wanting to ensure that, or to provide a written submission regarding some of the issues that are related to the strike and the operation of Canada, the recent strike and the operations of Canada Post. There are a number of items in there that we've seen before. So the idea of Canada Post operating as a financial institution, that idea is decades old. It's been hashed out there before. So really the first question is, does council want to participate in this? If no, that's the only direction we need. If yes, then obviously we would need more discussion on it.
Okay, thank you for that. Deputy Reeve McGee.
I appreciate having this on the agenda. I just wanted to, for me, it was important that our residents know that this service that is very critical to our well-being, I think municipal postal development care is not well understood, especially when it comes out to the country. And so we wanted people to be aware that we did receive this letter. It is my personal opinion that responding to one side of an issue is outside of the realm of governance of council, but this is simply for me a point of bringing awareness that that there is such requests going out, and that for me as a council member, this is not an appropriate thing under governance to be done. That's just what I'd like to offer for that, but thanks for bringing it forward so we have the awareness.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any other comment related to this issue? Councillor Penner, please.
Agree 100% with Councillor McGee, Deputy Reeve McGee. I am going to take it forward to our MLAs, not MPs, because it is frustrating. We need it in rural, and so they need to advocate for us in rural. Rural and remote Indigenous, do they need to offer all the services? Maybe this needs to be privatized, whatnot else. I'm still going to reach out to them to give my opinion, because I once again, I don't think we're being heard, and I don't necessarily want to do it through the union, but I will be reaching out to them just to give opinion of a rural resident or a rural council member of a rural municipality.
Okay, thank you for that. I think what I'm hearing loud and clear is the validity of having postal service for rural Canada for sure, and remote regions is critical. However, I'm not sure that it's appropriate for us to send a resolution that's supportive of a national labor union. So I think I appreciate Councillor Penner's comments in terms of we need to be talking to our federal MPs and certainly advocating on behalf of our rural residents for sure. So if there's no other comment or discussion, I would look for a motion that we accept the CUPW correspondence for information and leave it there. Councillor Christie?
So moved.
Thank you. So we have a motion that we accept the CUPW correspondence for information. Is there any further discussion to not? Ask the question. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is 7.3, Carbon Management Services Agreement. And Mr. Hogan, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. Through you, as during the budget deliberations, council discussed this request from the Village of Carbon. Ultimately, within the budget, it was chosen to go forward with this initiative on a pilot basis for the next 2 years. So with that, then the relationship is looking to be formalized, or should be formalized, with an actual agreement between us and the Village of Carbon. And that agreement is what is in front of you today. So administration is recommending that, that council approve the agreement. It has been reviewed and actually approved by the Village of Carbon already, formally through their council by resolution. Where some of the notes that we'd highlight is the individual would be a county staff member, but 0.6 of their time would be spent in the Village of Carbon, or I should say for the Village of Carbon, 0.4% for Kneehill County. That the portion that is spent for the Village of Carbon would be reimbursed to the county by the village. And of course, that payment framework is outlined within the agreement itself. You'll see that in the discussions, they were looking at a $75,000 annual fee. Of course, for this year and the last year of the agreement that are both partial years, that number has been prorated. Within that $75,000 for 2025, we've also applied a 3% escalator for 2026 and 27. So that fee is not staying static each year. It does go up in recognition of costs are likely going to increase year to year. In this, one of the things that we're, by putting in a formal agreement to govern how this process works, is we're outlining things around the understandings between the two parties in terms of the county will not be managing the village. It is up to the village council to do the things that the village council should be doing through this individual that will be acting as their CAO. It's our acknowledgement as well that when they're in that capacity, that they're to act in the best interest of the village. So one example that is there, when it comes time to renew our ICF agreement and the related service agreements to that, we would expect this individual to be working on the best efforts for the Village of Carbon. So that outlines the understanding from both our perspective and theirs, and it outlines some of the other costs. So when we formulated the numbers, there are certain costs that, as an employee, we would be incurring. We did outline in the agreement that costs that are incurred specifically for the Village of Carbon would be the Village of Carbon's responsibility, and that would be above and beyond the payment to the county. So as an example, if this individual who is acting as their CAO is attending the Alberta Munis Convention, which I'd expect they would, that cost is 100% on the Village of Carbon to cover the mileage accommodation and those types of costs that are related to that, because that is purely doing that in the capacity of their position with Carbon. So it formalizes items like that. As I said, it is a pilot project, so we are looking at this as starting in March of this year, going for 2 years and ending in March. Coming up on that time, it'll be up to the two municipalities as to whether we want to renegotiate, continue on, or if the project ends at that point in time. So that'll be a consideration for the future. With that, I think those are the main points. But as said, the items in front of you, council opted to move forward with this program, and so now this is the formalization of that, clarifying the understandings and how it would work between the two parties.
So maybe just for a little bit of clarity in terms of the process that the village is in with municipal affairs right now, the viability screening that's been approved by municipal affairs, that really doesn't have any impact on this contract because the Village of Carbon needs a CAO to continue to operate.
Through Mr. Reeve, correct. The viability screening that they're in is not a full viability review. So when I say the department, it's municipal affairs. So what the department will do is they'll come in and they'll look at a number of indicators, and from there it can be determined whether or not a full viability review will take place, or what happens at times with other municipalities around the province. The screening team will put in a series of recommendations. There'll be no further review, but there'll be recommendations that the village is expected to implement and report on. So that's also another possible outcome of the review. If a full viability review is ultimately what goes forward, those traditionally have been 18-month processes. So again, that was part of the reason for looking at this as rather than say a standing agreement as a term agreement. So a pilot with a 2-year term.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I know a number of people had seen in the media some information around what's happening there, and so it's just important to recognize the fact that the Village of Carbon business needs to continue regardless of what's happening in terms of the interactions with municipal affairs, and so the need for a CAO is still there. Are there any other questions related to, yes, Councillor FOIP, please.
I see that your hiring was under the level 1. I just know that from my experience of sitting here that the unrest among the residents of Carbon, would a level 2 not be more appropriate for the experience and being able to handle the unrest that's happening down in Carbon with its residents and the council?
Mr. Hogan, if you would.
Through the REEV, whether it's a NACLA level 1, 2, or somebody working towards their NACLA, that's a preferred thing. There's actually not a lot of difference between a 1 and a 2. The difference, I believe, is 4 additional courses.
So I think key for me in this whole agreement is that clause that says the village will provide or be responsible to provide a safe working environment. So there is onus on the village of Carbon to manage the interaction, and hopefully, in my mind anyway, if we have this individual in place, they do have the backup of the knowledge and capabilities within our own organization to help support them in that role. But certainly, I recognize what you're saying. That's a tough nut to crack when you're in a community that has a certain amount of unsettled issues. So, and I'm hopeful that the whole process, if the province goes through this viability screening and they come back and they say, you know what, this place is viable, there's no need to go on with the actual, review, then, and the issues are more personal things that are happening between council and individuals in the community. A lot of the angst that's in there is they're saying we'd be better off if we were part of Nehill County. It'd be to our advantage. And so they're pushing hard to make that happen. But if municipal affairs says you're viable, you're fine, you just need to straighten these things out, I think that works to our advantage, and it would work to the advantage of whoever is sitting in that CAO chair at the time. However, if there are any other questions, certainly please let's discuss them before we move forward here. So, Councillor FOIP, please.
So on, sorry, I just gotta go back to page 153, I believe is where we're at, and it says to provide legal advice and guidance to council and municipal staff. So I guess my question would be is what liability would the county incur if the legal advice being provided does harm knowing and unknowingly with the level of experience the county is hiring?
Through the REEV, that's standard. This was put forward. I do the same thing for you guys as a council. We often provide that back with actual advice from a legal opinion, so from actual lawyers, but providing and passing through legal advice to council is a standard CAO function. So as long as that's done in good faith, then.
Okay. Any, Councillor Cunningham, please.
So just to confirm, under number 5, and this was something that I learned in the last few years, one of the only roles we have as council members is the hiring and kind of performance management of our CAO. So I just want to be clear for myself and for those of Nehill County and the village as well, that the Carbon Council will not play a role in the hiring or the performance management of this potential CAO. Is that correct?
Through the REEV, that's not entirely correct. I'd say it's mostly correct. As we go through here, so the employee would be a Nehill County employee. They would be part of our org structure. It's not written formally in the agreement, but it has been informally agreed to between the village and ourselves that their current interim CAO, Jeanette Austin, would be part of the hiring panel for this position. So Carbon will have representation on the hiring. Under section 4, under the village obligations, and if you'll me, I'll just scroll up to it. Yes, so under section 4, under point 6 and 7, there is opportunity for the village to provide input into the performance of the individuals. So when we go to conduct the review at the end of their probation period, as well as their annual review, then we would be looking for the village to provide us with input so that we can incorporate that into the overall review. So that has been written into the agreement.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? Councillor Forbes.
I have received this question, so I'm going to ask it of our CAO through the chair, please. What happens if this position in carbon doesn't work out? What is the job that they're going to be doing for us? Because I always get that we're employee heavy. So that is the question is what happens to them if we no longer need them down in carbon?
Through the chair, it is a 2-year term position, so there is limited risk there. They're coming back here. There's no shortage of work at the county. We'd have to revise, we'd have to look at the time as to what they would be doing. It's disappointing that I find we get that comment that we're employee heavy, although most people don't understand the scope and magnitude of the county's operation. But there is a list of work here to be done, depending on the time frame. If that was to happen a couple of months before the term was finished, that's a different conversation than if it happened 6 months in. So either way, it would be reviewed to see where they would fit in or what the appropriate course of action going forward is. It's likely that the county would carry them for at least a portion of time, if not the whole time. But again, that really depends on the timing and environment of the day.
Deputy Reeve McGee.
And just to clarify that, when you say that reviewed, that'd be reviewed in front of council, right?
Sorry?
That would be brought forward in front of council at the 2-year period.
At the 2-year period, yes, it would only be the councils that would, the council would have to extend the agreement by resolution.
That's what I understood. Thank you.
Councillor Forbes.
So your comment on scope and workload for the county, maybe we can get better at letting our people know what the scope and the workload of the county is, because that is a question I get on a regular basis. It's not an attack against you or your staff, it's just that is the narrative that the public has. So if we can get better at clarifying what we do for work and scope, that they don't think we're heavy on the top load of employees, and that everyone who sits within this organization has a job that we require. And I do say this to the public when they phone and have conversations with me, but you have to understand that that's the narrative out there.
And
Mr. Hogan, go
through you,
ahead.
Mr. Reeve, communication from the county has been an ongoing focus. I can also alert council that is a narrative in every municipality.
Perfect. Good to hear. Public will be happy to hear that.
I've never encountered a municipality where that's not the narrative, and it hasn't been that way for decades, if longer.
Okay.
Well, I guess the only comment I would add to that is it just reminds us that it's imperative that as an organization that we're careful that when we are hiring or adding or deleting positions that we're doing that for very good reasons, right? Yeah. And that we're prepared to back those things up in a public conversation. So I see where you're coming from, and I agree with Mr. Hogan. I've heard that for my entire time on council. I heard that before I was on council. And you can go to any coffee shop in Nehill County and to many places of business, and you'll hear that narrative repeated over and over. And as councillor, I guess, and now as Reeve, part of our job is to, I guess, provide an alternative viewpoint to the narrative. And it's incumbent on us to recognize that the employees that we have and the ones who appear in front of us here in council or the ones that we hardly ever see, they're out there doing their jobs, and that's the manager's side of this organization to ensure that that's happening. And so I guess I provide a counterpoint to the narrative whenever I get involved in that. In fact, I was in a conversation yesterday afternoon with a group of individuals in a coffee shop in the south end of the county, and they have opinions, and so it's always interesting. It's always, I find it kind of fun to be in those environments and to be able to provide maybe just a counterpoint, right? And so I guess I sit here in this chair and I'm very appreciative of the staff and the people that we have. and the efforts that they're making on our behalf. And that's the story I tell. So, and I'm not afraid to tell that story. And I recognize that it is difficult sometimes to justify the things we do. So, Councillor Penner.
For myself, you don't realize until you actually sit in this chair, the workload of, or what the county actually does. So, yeah, it was an eye-opener for me even for a lot of things that came forward to me that the county actually is doing, and never thought of it before until I sat in this chair.
Deputy Reeve McGee.
I just wanted to support what has been said so far as well around our employees work very hard. I also want our residents to rest assured that we contemplate this every budget. We take it very seriously, and there's many factors that contribute why or why not we need more or less employees that have to be configured every year. It's not like this is, here administration, do whatever you like. This is clearly within parameters that have been set by council regularly. Having said that, if we are looking for an example, I thought Protective Services report today was an excellent example about how detailed and the workload that is required just because of the provincial obligations and many other safety obligations. The work time that department alone has to put in is something people would not be able to conceive. And I think that would be an excellent example to refer people to if you're looking for something.
Okay, thank you for that. We've kind of gone a bit sideways here, but first, Councillor Cunningham, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Whitstock.
Okay, I have a couple, but, and again, not to veer, like the Reeve just said, too far from where we're at. I know we had a discussion, I think a few months ago, about are residents aware of our service levels, and that's something we said maybe we could be doing. So when we talk about our staff and how many we have, so maybe that's something we can aim to work towards. But so I know it's quite a topic in municipal government that hiring and finding and keeping CEOs is a concern. When we're advertising for this position as 2-year pilot program, I know sometimes temporary positions are hard to fill. Are we afraid that having it right up front that this could be 2 years and done? Will that hinder the possibility of getting a appropriate candidate for this position?
Okay, Mr. Hogan, if you would, please.
Through the Reeve, it's definitely a risk. As soon as we opted to go towards that pilot program, that was a risk that entered the equation. One of the differences, I think, in a position like this, and we'll see how it plays out there, is we will be looking for an individual that has some municipal experience, and we think has the tool set to be a CAO. One of the things that this position embodies is I'm going to call it is a training position, but it is also an upper level training position. So, are we going to attract somebody with 10 years as a CAO to this position? Probably not, right? What we're really looking for is somebody that has that tool set and that we can potentially grow and look at. Down the road, if the program continues, it could potentially be a training position or a development position for within the county and tie into our own succession planning, whether that was for a manager or director position. So that's kind of how we're viewing it. And that's, I know the Village of Carbon understands that in our conversations with them as well. If there was, if we were looking, we'd have to increase the position if we were looking for somebody that was coming in with years of CAO experience and really that training component is what the relationship with Nehill County and being able to access our cohort of managers, directors, and myself is giving them that extra, if you want to call it a safety net or an ability. So it is a good, I guess the term I'm looking for is it could provide a good launching point for somebody to take that next step. But there is always the risk that, a 2-year term position might prove challenging. It's one of the things we'll have to see.
So, Councillor Cunningham, you said you had a couple.
So I know one thing that we kind of often as council are reminded of, that we have to be very cognizant of not adding more work to our staff. So I guess a question for you, Mr. Hogan, would be a lot of this, the obligations and the extra work would fall on you. And I guess just respectfully, I'd want to know, like, do you feel you have an enormous workload? Are you feeling that you have the time, the staff, and the ability to be able to take this additional, because this is an additional role to your current role. Are you feeling that you are willing to do that?
Mr. Hogan, go ahead.
Through the reeve, Councillor Cunningham, that's a very good question. One of the things we looked at when we were in discussions around this position, and I say we, talking about the senior leadership team, so myself and the directors, was doing that assessment of knowing that individual would be coming back and talking to us as a group and as an organization. Did we have the capacity to bring that in? And we felt that we did. And so that's why we were able to move forward with the discussion. If we felt that we weren't able to do that, then we would have put that forward in the discussion. But it is a good awareness question, because it is recognized that there will be additional questions and things like that that are coming our way.
Okay. Councillor Whitstock.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reeve. I know we've had a lot of fulsome discussion about the subject and all around the subject. So at this point in time, I would like to move the council authorize the Reeve and CAO to sign the Carbon Management Services Agreement as presented.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Whitstock. So we have a motion that council authorize the Reeve and CAO to sign the Carbon Management Services Agreement as presented. Is there any further discussion to the motion? Councillor Cunningham, please, and then Councillor Christie, I'll come to you.
So I don't always feel the need to do this, but I will in this scenario. For me, I want to explain I will be voting no for this. Some of the questions that I just asked, I think, clarify my concerns. Like I said earlier, one of the only jobs we have is to hire and kind of the review of the CEO of our municipality. I do understand that the current Carbon Council has agreed to this, but we know that we are close to an election, and so from my understanding, there's going to be a good portion of that Carbon Council that is going to change. So I personally do not want to take the ability of that new council. I don't want to take that ability from them away to hire the person that they see fit, and that it be our decision to do that. So just to clarify, if anybody's curious, that is why I will be voting no for this.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Christie.
I see this as a training program and a succession planning for both Carbon and Neil County. And I think it's positive for both councils. I think we know Carbon needs some support, and I think it's a way of doing it to help them move on.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Christie. Deputy Reeve McGee.
I wanted to just put in my 2 bits by saying I will be voting in favor of this because in my mind, we are not taking anything away from the county, the Council of Carbon, because this is their request and they are exercising their ability to hire somebody by hiring us to manage that. So that is still they're exercising that right, is how I'm viewing it, just for clarity.
Okay, I appreciate that. Councillor Forbes, please.
As I looked at this, and I've struggled with it a little bit, just because, one, I also will echo Councillor Cunningham's thoughts. I have, as a councillor, the things that I've learned is one, we get to hire our CAO. Now, regardless of whether or not Carbon has fully agreed to allow us to do that, I still don't think they understand the weight, and that's their choice. But it's a weight I wouldn't want to have. I would have been no if I was sitting on that council for sure. The other thing is the extra costs that this county is now going to incur to help Carbon out. So we're using taxpayers' funding, and yes, we'll create a position where we can have a succession here so that I understand all the optics of it, but I just, to be fiscally responsible, I'm not in favor of this, and I won't be due to the fact that Municipal Affairs hasn't even told us if they're viable or not. And that, to me, we're always told that there's a hierarchy of way things are getting done. So if we're gonna step in and take over Carbon and help them get where they need to be, will Municipal Affairs now look at that and go, hey, let's just let the counties do that for their urbans. And then it takes them out of their job.
So that is why I would be a no for that.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I think one of the clarifications that's important for me is in this circumstance, Nehill County is not taking over carbon. I would be careful with that terminology. What we are doing is we are providing a contract employee to carbon so that they can continue to manage their own business. That employee, yes, is going to be partly shared with us, but when that employee is in carbon or employed in carbon's interest, that should be their only focus, is carbon. So I know it's probably semantics in some cases, and we're all allowed to have to view this in one way or the other, and so I appreciate your concern, Councillor Phobes, related to, does that appear like we're just taking them over? And so I recognize that concern, and I think that's a reality, but currently we do have a motion in front of us that says Council will authorize the REEV and CAO to sign the Carbon Management Service Agreement as presented. So I guess I'll give one last opportunity for any further discussion or comment related to the motion that's on the floor. Councillor Cunningham.
Sorry, I just wanted to, one more that has kind of come to me. Again, kind of back to my earlier comment about service levels and service delivery. Again, I think hopefully that's something that's on the forefront of our mind going forward. When we look at our core services, I get told what's important to the ratepayers are roads, fire services, water, planning, core services. Even when I look at our strategic plan, I just don't see management services as part of those levels of service. So again, that's just kind of where I'm at with that and what I'm hearing from our ratepayers.
Okay, and again, I hear the comment. One of the things that's within our strategic management plans and in our conversation is always the relationship that we have with our urban neighbors and the partnerships that we have there. And that's also one of the things we need to keep in front of our ratepayers, is that there is a conversation constantly between ourselves and our urban partners, as is seen in our municipal development plan, is seen in our IDPs and our ICFs, so our intermunicipal collaboration frameworks, and our intermunicipal, what are they called, IDPs? Mm-hmm. So there is an ongoing conversation, and there's an ongoing partnership that we have. So this is a direct request from the Village of Carbon that today we will either choose yes or we will choose no and go from there. Any further question, comment, discussion before I call the motion and ask the question? So the motion is that Council will authorize the REEV and CAO to sign the Carbon Management Services Agreement as presented. Last chance. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. I'm going to suggest we take a short break. I'm going to give us 10 minutes. So Okay, it is 10:40 and I'll call our meeting back to order. The next item on our agenda is 7.4, which is RMA Board Governance Review. And again, Mr. Hogan, if you would, please.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Reeve. Every term, the RMA does a board governance review. This is where they canvass their members and see how they're doing, how effectively they feel, or how effectively the members feel they're doing, and basically what's working well, what can be improved. So they've sent this out, as is their historical practice. And what the question before council we placed on the agenda is, would council as a whole like to take part? Do you want to leave it to members of council to individually take part? Both options have been outlined by RMA as suitable options. And so really the question is in front of council as to which approach that you want to take. And not taking any approach is an option as well. If you do want to participate and council wants to participate as individuals, then that would be up to each of you to take it away and fill it out or not as you see fit. If you do want to participate as a council, as a whole, then there would be a process where we would need those answers so that we could fill that in on council's behalf and make one submission prior to the deadline.
And the deadline for submission?
February 5th.
February 5th? Wow, okay, that's right in front of us. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Hogan, for that. What's the wish of council? Do we want to approach this individually? Do we want to do a joint response? I'm open to your direction. Deputy Reeve McGee.
I'd like to suggest that we do it individually, just because then we have 7 people giving feedback instead of one thing, and it just, I think it emphasizes some of that repetitiveness where it exists then in that opportunity. I also think it's a good use of our time when we can do it at our leisure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very leisurely for the next week.
You don't have that much leisure time before February 5th. Okay, so that's one suggestion. Is there any other thoughts on the process? If Deputy Reeve McGee's suggestion is amenable to the rest of council, then we could go forward with that approach. I guess I'm looking again for direction. What would council wish to do? Okay, so I'm seeing a fair amount of consensus around individual. So if we were going to do anything there, we would say that, we don't really need to then make a motion, would we, Mr. Hogan? We could just agree among ourselves that we are going to do this survey and do it individually. I guess I'm looking for direction from you.
Through you, Mr. Reeve, I think I'd recommend you either just accept as information and acknowledge that council members may complete the survey individually.
Okay, so then, thank you, Ms. Vanderkool. One comment I would make, having just recently come back from the Ag Service Board Conference, is I think that this probably would be a process that would be good for the provincial Ag Service Board to go through as well. The Ag Service Board Conference was interesting, the speakers were excellent, but I felt that the management and direction of the resolutions, in particular, the annual general meeting, the conference direction in overall was certainly not reflective of what I would hope to see from an organization that puts itself out there as representing the ag industry from a municipal point of view across the board. So anyway, we'll leave that there. So the motion is that, oh, there is no motion yet because no one's made it. Deputy Reeve McGee.
I'll make the motion that we accept the RMA Board Governance Review Report as information, and council members can participate individually.
Okay, thank you for that. So we now have a motion that council accept the RMA Board Governance Review Report for information, and that council members participate individually in that review. Okay. Any further discussion? Not, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Put it in your calendar, that's right. 7.5, RMA meeting with Minister Dreeshen. And Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. This is standard for what council has seen at other conventions in the past. We've been alerted that there is a potential opportunity to meet with Minister Dreeshen, who is Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors, at the upcoming RMA convention. So the question administration is posing to council is if you would like us to respond and to request a meeting. If so, similar to these requests when we've reviewed them before, we would need a specific topic to go talk with the minister about.
Okay, thank you for that. I think the items that we had potentially for the fall meeting haven't gone away. Whether we want to request that meeting and try to get those in front of the minister, what's council's thoughts? Councillor Penner, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Forbes.
I'm all for it, and especially, I know Highway 21 is not our jurisdiction, but should the bridge on the Three Hills Creek go out, it's our county roads that will be hammered, so I'm all for it. And not just that road, there's the 836, it's terrible too.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Forbes.
I will also echo those, because my real question was going to be, because I don't know what our bridges are like. We have a lot of them. So is there one that needs some addressing on our behalf towards them?
Mr. Hogan.
Through the chair, when we've met in the past with Minister Dreeshen, we are largely going to talk about provincial bridges. Okay. So there's nothing inherently on ours that we're looking at. We seem to be doing well in terms of accessing the STIP funding. So that is, as we go through that, but generally we're looking at those provincial bridges. So if those items from the fall are looking to be replicated here, which I think both of those ones are, I would have to refer back to them. We could submit those ones again.
Okay. So the sense that I'm getting is we would like to request a meeting with the minister. The items that were on our wish list in the fall has not changed. Certainly, I agree the bridge on the Three Hills Creek needs some absolute addressing. And if you've ever driven on 836, you wonder why you chose to go that way. So, yeah, I think we probably have some things we would like to talk to him about. So, I would be looking for council to give direction. I'm hearing that we're requesting that. But I do need a motion. Councillor Penner.
I can make that motion that council direct administration to organize a meeting with Minister Dreeshen at the spring RMA conference.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Christie, did you have a comment?
Just a comment that if he's in doubt, I would take him for a ride in my Jeep Wrangler and he'd decide the roads need to be fixed.
Should we do
Okay.
a video before we go?
So Councillor Christie is doing a guided tour of the worst places. All right, so the motion from Councillor Penner is that council direct administration to request a meeting with the minister and at the spring RMA conference. Any further discussion to the motion? I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 7.6, which is Mountain View Women in Business Award. And Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. The Mountain View and Neighbors Women in Business Awards is a group that is currently operating, that is recognizing the contributions of women in our, call it region, in business. We have had individuals from the county that have been nominated for this in the past, even ones that have won. We have currently, I believe Councillor Cunningham has some participation in this. We're bringing this forward just as a recommendation that the county formalize our participation in that committee and formally appointing a member of council to that committee. I'm referring to it as a committee, I should say organization.
Okay, thank you for that. Discussion? Questions? Clarification? Deputy Reeve McGee.
Just for clarity, I'm wondering how this morphed because I also know that the Community Futures Group that we are in the area of is having a similar event in Strathmore. And so how do we want to handle that, that piece?
Okay, thank you for that. So perhaps I'll start with some of the clarification. We were approached by Reeve Elbers from Mountain View. She approached me at RMA around this event and was asking regarding, she actually, I think, was pitching that I should be involved. And I suggested to her that because Councillor Cunningham had attended last year, that, and because she's a woman in business, might be more appropriate for her to have that conversation. And so I spoke to Councillor Cunningham and said to her that I had talked to Reeve Elbers and that Reeve Elbers would be talking to her. And so that's how we got involved. The event in Mountain View was originally kick-started by an individual entrepreneur within Mountain View who felt it was important. She really, what would be the word I would use? She really got motivated and really went after it. And this year is the second year. So my understanding is that the conversation I had with Councillor Cunningham, basically she felt I was asking her to represent us on that committee, and she proceeded accordingly. And so that's really how it happened. And Councillor Cunningham presented at our last council meeting information on what was happening with that conference. And so the question really for us today is we're being asked to formalize her participation. Because of the way it evolved, my suggestion would be is that I would be supportive of Councillor Cunningham continuing to serve with that group for the current year, and that she be our representative on that committee. I feel that it's separate. I recognize it's separate. Actually, the two events are one right after the other. One's on Friday and one's on Saturday.
Well, because that's when International Women's Day is.
Women in Business Day is right around there. The Mountain View one is on the Friday at the Pomeroy in Olds, and the Community Futures one is actually at Crossfield, the barn at Prairie Lane in Crossfield on the Saturday. So go ahead, Deputy Reeve McGee.
And not that I have a problem with it. I think this is a great, anytime a community member makes an initiative and goes forward, I think that's fantastic. I am curious, and furthermore, around my my point about Community Futures, we're part of other organizations that doesn't have our branch being part of that event either. So it's not for me a black and white, well, we shouldn't or anything. I just wanted to, but I also have the question, Laura, Councillor Cunningham, do we have any one of the Community Futures part of your group there?
So which entity of Community Futures?
Any one of them from around that community,
So-
so there's a different entity for
Yeah.
that area, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So I, further to your email that you sent, I think I mentioned Deborah Rice Solomons, who is the one who started it. She owns Mountain View Heritage Center in Mountain View County. She has the list of the committee members. I could tell you who they are, but I know some of them belong to Sundry Chamber, but I don't want to give you that list until I can confirm that. She's just coming home from Scotland. We have a meeting on Thursday, so once she's home, I can get that to you. Like Reeve King said, Reeve Albers is on the committee. Reeve Swanson from Clearwater County is on. So like I said, Sundry plays a role. Olds Chamber plays a role. I do not believe Community Futures is on it, but I don't want to confirm or deny that because I'm not 100% sure. But I can get that to you when she's back. Well, she will be back for sure by Thursday because there's a meeting.
That's great. I'm just curious, just curious because I think, knowing how that process is going to be working in our region, because I think that is an example of a very, very appreciated event. And I can see this growing throughout the province. And so I think we have to, I'm glad we're coming back for another year to take a look at that bigger picture, because I think we do need to be careful about what this morphs into eventually and be sure that we are, are appreciating all levels. And then my other question to you through the Reeve, Councillor Cunningham, do you know if the Three Hills Chamber is part of it?
So I was at Three Hills and District Chamber on last week when you folks were at the BREWD event. So they are not sitting on the committee per se, but they are, if you go to their Facebook page and their website, they are 100% promoting the event. But there's not someone currently sitting at the table from the chamber. Yeah. And just to clarify, my participation, as Reeve said last year, was not on behalf of the county. Yeah. That was definitely on me as a woman in business in rural Alberta. So yeah, not with the county. I always want to bang the drum. There was 5 women in our area that were nominated. One of which was a Nehill County staff member, Deb Grossfield, which I think I mentioned before. So yeah, anytime we have the opportunity to, celebrate women, and one of the sections is women in agriculture, which I'm really excited about. So yeah.
No, I appreciate that you did that last year, and I appreciate the opportunity that we can have an influence around the table. So those are just some of my big picture worries that I wanted to question, but it certainly isn't in contesting of this at all.
Mr. Hogan, and then come to you, Councillor Cunningham.
Through Mr. Reeve to Deputy Reeve McGee, the other event that you've referenced here today, we can have staff gather some information on that other event and see if they're looking for participation or what some of those details are. So we don't have those today, but we can look into it.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Christie, please.
I'm just comment that there's several programs with Community Futures work with other branches and more, like we're on the very north edge of Community Futures Wild Rose. Community Futures Central is involved in BREWD, but Community Futures Wild Rose isn't. So there's several programs where the boundaries don't quite match, so this is probably one of them.
Councillor Penner.
So my question is, the cost to the county, is it just per diems, or does this organization, in order to host these events, are they strictly go out and get fundraise for these events, or are they asking the counties for financial assistance?
Mr. Hogan, please.
Through the Reeve to Councillor Penner, when our staff looked into this, one of the questions we specifically asked is if they were seeking sponsorship from the county. The answer we got back is that they're not seeking sponsorship at this time. They did say last year Mountain View County and chose to be a sponsor. Nehill and Clearwater didn't. Would they say no to sponsorship? I'm guessing they wouldn't, but they're not requesting it. And so to the original question, per diems and mileage would be the incurred expense.
Councillor Forbes, please.
Through the chair, and that being said, is there room in the council budget for this to take place?
Mr. Hogan.
Through the Reeve to Councillor Forbes, yes.
Perfect.
Councillor Cunningham.
And just to clarify, like to date, like the meetings that have been held, there's been the larger group meetings, and then Reeve Albers and Reeve Swanson and I are on that, I guess they're calling it political committee, where we're tasked with inviting MLAs, MPs, that type of thing. To date, we've not held any in-person meetings. They've all been done by Zoom. So my anticipation is the mileage will be negligible or perhaps even zero.
Well done.
Councillor Penner, yep.
Just a comment, with their letterhead, is there any chance that they can fix Nehill on that? Going forward, I know there's probably a lot, maybe have printed out or whatever, but anything that's going out on the internet, can it please be spelt correctly?
Okay, Mr. Hogan.
Through Mr. The other point that I'll make is, while there's no cost to the county, obviously there is an event that takes place. Council would have the option of purchasing tickets to that event if Nehill County was a formal partner and was wanting to engage in it. But again, that'd be a decision of council.
So I know that I've seen correspondence from the Community Future Wild Rose one. I know I've been in conversation with Reeve Albers, who has been encouraging council participation in the Mountain View event. And so I know there's communication out there. I received, from Community Futures, I received an invitation to the event in Crossfield area. So I think probably many of us at council have. I guess the whole reason behind this conversation today is really to provide permission, authorization to Councillor Cunningham to participate as an official Nehill County representative with the Women in Business event in Mountain View for this current year. And so I guess one of the reasons this came forward is I'm kind of driving this conversation somewhat because I feel Laura Lee has gone forward in good faith based on conversations with me, and I feel that we need to honor that action in good faith by giving her a formal appointment to serve on the Mountain View Women in Business Committee for this current year. So that's my request of council. I can't really put that in a motion, but I'm appreciative of Councillor Cunningham's efforts, and I appreciate the enthusiasm she has and the passion for this event. And so that would be the request that I personally would be making of us as council. So. But of course,
You can't make a motion.
I am subject to the will of council. Councillor Forbes, please.
Well, that being said, I would make the motion that council appoint Councillor Cunningham to Mountain View and Neighbors Women in Business Award Committee.
Councillor Penner, please.
Just a question. Does the wording, should it, going forward, are we going to appoint someone every year, or should it just be a council, I don't know, in this, sorry, in this, for this year, is it for the 2025 year, we appoint Councillor Cunningham and it is brought back to the organizational meeting as an organizational? Yeah, to bring it back to the organizational meeting?
I like that.
So again, the clarity that I would provide is, I think that I gave Councillor Cunningham, I didn't communicate well with Councillor Cunningham when we started this whole process. And like I said, in good faith, she's gone forward. In her view, representing Nehill County, and I think because she has done that, I think that for this year, which is what we're talking about here, I think we need to affirm that that's what council is doing, and that we're giving her our permission to be our representative there, and I don't think that's a bad thing, so.
Right.
So that's what the motion now says, that from Councillor Forbes, that council appoint Councillor Cunningham to the Mountain View and Neighbors Women in Business Awards Committee for the 2025. Councillor Cunningham.
Odd question, but it feels really weird for me to vote on this. Do I vote because I'm in the motion, or where, because it just still hoops me up that it.
Yeah.
You vote, you vote. It is an appointment by council of you, much like any of our other committees. So it's, yes.
It is odd, but.
You could vote against if you wish. But no, it's appropriate that you vote in this motion, so, yeah.
If it was a paid position, that'd be a good question. Yeah. But you're representing us, so it's not to benefit you, it's to benefit us.
You will be our representative, and as a counselor, it's appropriate you vote here. It's like the other appointments we do at our organizational meetings. Okay, any further discussion required? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. And again, thank you, Councillor Cunningham, for your efforts in this area. It is appreciated, and we wish you and the committee much success. And I guess the other question that I might want to ask before we run away from this whole topic, because we know there are invitations out there to this event and to the Wild Rose Community Futures event, whether we want to give permission to councillors to attend, anyone who can. Mr. Hogan, maybe am I off base here, or should we be considering that?
Through Mr. Reeve, I think that's something we can look into, and we can bring, as I said, we'll bring some information back on that Community Futures event.
Okay.
If council is, now that you've chosen, or I believe you're about to choose to be a formal part of this, then it's not an inappropriate question to ask if the purchase of tickets is going to be, if that's something council wants to embark on. Okay. Likewise, I think the event is far enough away, administration can bring some of that back as well.
Yeah, because it's March 7th and March 8th are the two dates. So,
so if it works with council, I think our economic development staff can likely gather information on that, on the events themselves, what purchasing tickets would even cost, and we can bring that back for council consideration.
Okay. All right, thank you for that clarification. Councillor Christie.
I do have a Community Futures meeting next week, so I could ask there.
Okay. All right. I think we're done there then. Moving on in our agenda, we'll go to disposition of delegation and public hearing business, which is 8.1, a delegation from Stars Air Ambulance, and Ms. Vanderkoel.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. So earlier today, Jackie Seeley from STARS provided a presentation to council. STARS delivers an annual report to council detailing the number of missions flown in our area and updates in their operations. While the presentation was informative, STARS is also requesting an increase in Nehill County's contribution from $3,000 to $7,500, which is based on $1.50 per capita. Just for your reference, if the county were to contribute $1.50 per capita, the total would be around $7,371, as our population has decreased from 5,035 to 4,914. So to get to the 7,500, it would actually be $1.52 per capita. So currently the county has a motion in place passed on June 25th, 2019, committing $3,000 annually to STARS for five years. In addition, during STARS presentation last year, they requested and received approval from council to amend the 2024 budget, allocating an extra $2,000 from contingency, bringing the 2024 contribution to $5,000. It is important to note the original 2019 motion, which committed $3,000 annually for 5 years, will expire in 2025. So administration is requesting 2 decisions from council today. The first one is how much do you want to contribute in 2025? With the motion we made in 2019, we budgeted $3,000 for 2025. Does council want to increase this amount? We do have a council contingency where the funds could come from, as we did last year. And the second decision is around future contributions. How much does council wish to commit to STARS for future years? Multi-year contributions are greatly appreciated by administration as they simplify our budget planning. That concludes my report. I look forward to receiving council's direction.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Vanderkoel. So, council, thoughts, discussion, questions? What are your thoughts? I know today they asked for a significant move forward. If our budgeted amount was $3,000, last year we gave them an extra $2,000, and this year they're asking for us to up that even farther to the $7,500 mark. So what's the wish of council? And let's deal with this year's donation first and foremost. Councillor Penner.
No amount of money is enough when it comes to a person's health and whatnot else, but the motion was made back in 19 for the 3,000. We did up it last year to 5,000, and I'm happy to stay with 5,000 because we've already done our budget for this year, and then for the next 5 years to up it to the 7,500.
Okay, thank you for that. So, other thoughts, discussion? Oh, sorry, Councillor Cunningham.
Okay. I'm in agreement with Councillor Penner. I mean, I would love to move it to 75 this year, but I think there was that motion made in 2019 that I think I would stay with, but 100% in agreement with then moving forward to the 75. We here within our own budgets, the cost of everything, the cost of equipment, cost of living, cost of supplies, fuel, insurance, we are all facing it, so they're no different. I think like she said, as emissions increase, so do the costs, and they're definitely doing more missions around our area as well, and for our residents too. So that would be my thoughts going forward.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other thoughts, conversation, discussion? Councillor FOIP, please.
I'm not sure who's going to be able to answer this question, but like, what percentage is that increase every year? Do we kind of have an idea? Just because if we're gonna build in for 7,500, we know that every year they're gonna come back with more. So do we make a motion on that portion of 7,500, but with a 3% or whatever it is increase annually during that 5-year term? Because here's where I'm gonna look at this. I know what it costs to have a fire truck in our county. So $7,500 for a helicopter to be in service to this county, which we do see happens more. We have more than what I believed we actually had coming here for us. It was nice to see those numbers of the residents who actually benefit from that program. So I would rather give a $7,500 increment than $1 million that it would cost to actually have that equipment.
Well, if we could buy a helicopter for $1 million, I might be in on that. Pretty hard to compare a fire engine and a helicopter for sure in terms of capital costs, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I recognize what you're saying. Councillor Penner, you had a thought? Oh, you have many, okay, please share.
Changing color. I hear what you're saying. I would prefer to leave it like at the 7,500, but like we did last year, they can come forward if there's some unforeseen circumstances. We don't know what the future is with the economy and whatnot else. I'd prefer they come back to us and then ask for additional, and then we'll see how the times are for us ourselves. But for the wording, just to be 7,500, but in the back of my mind, the door is always open for unforeseen circumstances.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead, Mr. Hogan.
Through Mr. Reid, the other option council has here, and it does give less certainty to stars, but there is you're not married to a 5-year term either. So if you went to, say, 7,500 for 3 years, you'd have an automatic review of it at 3 years instead of 5. So I'm just tossing it out there. I'm sure stars would like the longer commitment, because then they can plan or bank on that a bit longer, but there are other options there too for council's consideration.
Well, I think you heard her absolute preferred option today, which would be to go to the $2 per cap, but I don't think we're going to consider that. So, so that's a potential compromise, is that we provide them with that surety for 3 years and move forward from there. So. Oh, sorry, Councillor Forbes. Yep.
I actually do like the 3-year term, because then that happens within that council's term. Whereas if you're new and you come in, maybe you think that you want to give more, but that would be a discussion around the table at that time. So I do like the 3-year as opposed to the 5. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. I appreciate that. Yeah. Councillor Petter.
And I guess I see her point too when they're trying to do long-term budgets. So if they have that, for me as a councillor, it's very important. Like, we have our 4-H groups, we have the Rumsey Rally, some of these big stars fundraisers that we have. So in the back of it, it's always important for us to like support the 4-H group when it comes to printing or whatever, because we know they give back through stars and things like this. It's a intertwined kind of relationship. I think we support stars in other ways, just not straight out with that a check to them. We support these other organizations that organize events that stars benefits from.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? I would be looking for someone to put forward a motion, I guess, ultimately to approve what we're going to support them with this year, and then we'll look for a second motion in terms of what we want to do more longer term. Councillor Petter.
Oh, so you want me to do this year? I think we need to stay at the 5,000 which we gave to them last year for it's in the budget. So what wording would, sorry.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll make a motion to support stars in the amount of 5,000 for the 2025 budget year.
Sure. And then you want a second motion for the going forward?
And then I would look for a second motion.
Okay.
So we'll deal with this current year first. Because what we are actually doing is providing, as Carolyn's putting it up there, is an additional 2,000 over what we motioned back in 2021.
I'd like to ask administration, is that necessary though? Because what you're saying is, let's just stick with what we already have, and we don't need to discuss, we already have the motion saying that's what we're doing.
But does that motion say from the?
Yeah.
But you do have a motion for 3,000, so I kind of budgeted thinking that you might make this motion.
Okay, so can we just then say council move to provide 5,000 for the 2025 budget year for stars?
It's already in the budget.
It's already,
We already made those
we're
motions.
just gonna keep it where it's at.
Okay, so we don't need a motion related to this year at all?
No, correct.
Okay, so then what we're looking for would be direction going forward.
And I can make that motion.
So what we're doing is we're going to move to approve an annual donation of 7,500 for a period of 3 years.
I'm saying 5, but we can have a discussion, just because when they present, they like to do 5-year, and I'm sure it's a short-term budget for them, but a long-term, I'm not sure how they word it themselves, but we can have further discussion here. I don't mind amendments. You can convince me.
Well, I think the comment I heard was that it does then allow the next council in their term to have an opportunity to review so if we made it 3 years, what's gonna end up happening is in 2029, they would have to review and decide, so that'd be the last year. Would it be the last year? Yep, of their term, so. And would give them an opportunity, plus they have the opportunity to review that every year based on the request coming from STARS.
Right.
So I guess what we're debating here is not the amount, but the length of
year.
the commitment. Councillor Christie.
I guess looking at the budget, looking back, is about the third year where we bumped the value. So for me, the 3-year thing is more adaptable to what's coming down the pike than the 5-year.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what the increases will be, but I'm sure there'll be something.
Okay, so I hear there's no such thing as a friendly amendment, so we can do it for a 3-year, commencing in the 2026.
Yeah, it's a council motion at this point, and so, I think it's more about, are we in agreement that 3 years is appropriate? And if that's the case, then let's go with that. If there was a strong consensus in the room that we wanted to give them that continuity of funding for 5 years, then that's the direction we'd want to go. But if the consensus is 3 years, then I would suggest that's the direction. So am I seeing a bunch of heads going yes? Yeah, okay. All right, is there any further discussion? We have a motion from Councillor Penner that council move to approve an annual donation of $7,500 for a period of 3 years commencing in 2026 to the Shock Trauma Air Rescue Society, better known as STARS. Any further discussion? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda would be 9.1, which is the Ag Service Board Conference. Councillor Phobes, did you want to go first?
Let me find my notes, I got a lot of them.
You told her to take good notes. Go ahead, please.
I did. There was some really excellent speakers that we had with information that I thought was extremely great for who we are when you sit on the ASB board, particularly the gentleman from the United States that came up to speak to us about wild boar. And he's not wrong when he says they didn't anticipate them having the issues that they have, and it's coming this way. So maybe we need to get ahead of that as not just a county, but as a province as well, so that there's things on our books that would show that this is restricted within the province to eliminate that, sort of like what we're doing with rats.
So are we asking Mr. Trump to prevent illegal immigrants called wild boar from coming into Canada?
They got touched.
Sorry,
No.
I couldn't resist. Go ahead, sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm not gonna answer that question. The other great thing is the bees of Alberta. We have over 470 species in this province, which I had no idea. I mean, in my head, I think of the cute little bumblebee that's bigger than its wingspan, but we have bees that look like insects, and I had no idea. So that was really informative. I mean, I also learned some really great things about gophers, which was interesting. So when they come out, you're all seeing males. Run them over. I'm kidding.
Get the first one.
That's the first one.
Yeah.
The dangerous ones are the ones that come second.
That's exactly right. There was some really great motions brought forward on the floor too for resolutions that will involve and affect the farmers in our province. So I do appreciate the work that that board does in regards to all of us as ASB members and the people that we serve while sitting on that board. So I think that's about all I have to offer from that conference.
Okay, Councillor Christie, go for it.
Going back to the wild boar thing, is one of the comments that he made that caught my attention is they have eradicated wild boars in 8 states. they're using 250 traps in his program and ordered 250 more. So that program's working, and I think they said there was 5 more that they're on the verge of eradicating. So that shows that they're working at it, and we need to follow that suit, and we are. So that's the part here that's really good. We still need more regulations on farms that have wild boars to follow up on confinement of those animals and some kind of an inspection program that works. And right now we don't have. They inspect, but it's not, talking to Stettler, they're not very happy about their jurisdiction and what they can do and what they can't do.
Some days we are our own worst enemy.
The veterinarian that put a program on, or a talk on stress and we all know about the stress in agriculture, but I've never really thought about the stress on the animal medical people. That's probably higher than ours. So that was really good for awareness.
Councillor Benner.
Just a comment, and maybe the Ag Service Board Chair might like to, speak more about it, is what, as a Nehill County, what we've put in place about wild boars. So that, just so that our ratepayers who are listening know what's going on in Nehill County.
Well, in Nehill County, we have a total ban on wild boars. We just don't allow it. And when we find it, they're approached and they're gone. So and that's coming, I think, across the province. And Stettler's having trouble because they're somewhat grandfathered with the program that they had. But they certainly wouldn't sign on again.
Well, I think my understanding too from a bit of chatting with Stettler is they also now are a recipient of wild boar from other places because they still have that operation in existence there.
That's the problem that they have, is they don't have, they can go in where there's 150 or they can go in and there's 4,000. And there's no tracking of that. So like and if the boars are outside their compound, it's not theirs.
So a quick question, sorry, we're getting a bit off topic here. Oh, what's the Ag Service Board? Is CFIA not involved in that kind of thing with those operations?
I don't know the regulations that CFIA would have at that point. But for sure that Stettler's looking at more regulations, but their hands are somewhat tied because of they approved it originally. The part now is the jurisdiction and who's responsible to make sure that confinement facility is up to date, and it's not.
Anybody who has ever had pigs know they are escape artists, so they seem to be able to get out of almost any facility. So I think for me, probably what I would like to bring back from the Ag Service Board Conference is the absolute province-wide recognition that was there for the Open Farm Day event in Trochu. Like that lady who presented on Open Farm Days at Ag Service Board, the information she brought was absolutely amazing. I'd love to see that presentation in our council chambers. There was province-wide recognition for the work that was done in Trochu on that Open Farm Days event. And I mean, there was nothing but accolades for that event. And so I certainly think it would be valuable for our ratepayers to hear about that event. And I would be absolutely supportive of a presentation here in our council chambers. It was amazing, really, to see that, so. Go ahead, Councillor Phobes.
While you're all sitting here talking, it triggered something else. The one presenter on the drones and the tags around the necks of all of the animals. Amazing.
Virtual fencing.
Yes, the virtual fencing, thank you. Super cool, like they were able to count the flies on the back of a black Angus cow with the technology of the drone coming up, so it doesn't really disturb the herd, and they can go around and count and see what's going on with their herds. And if the should fall off, it's GPS, so they totally will be able to find the equipment. Currently, they are at $400 per animal.
Yeah. But it was interesting to watch them move a herd.
Yes.
Through gates and across pens with virtual fencing, because they'd get the cattle moving and then they'd put the fence up behind them and then they'd move further away and they'd put just sitting on their computer, they'd move the fence, watching the cattle move, they'd move the fence. and the cattle would keep going, and they'd go through the gate, and they'd put the fence and close it behind them, and it was crazy to see, so.
The best part of that presentation was the tech that wanted to see if it worked. Apparently it does, the way you shut that collar.
They showed us a video of, was a U of A student
I think so, yeah.
who was holding one of those devices. He's holding on to the two chains, and he's walking, looking for the boundary. He's walking and walking. Nope, nothing's happening. And he gets to that boundary and he gets absolutely zapped. It was hilarious. It has a tone on it that warns, right? You're approaching, and the tone increases as you get closer. But boy, you get close enough and bam, you get nailed.
And this technology is helpful to the people. We had one of the they showed a gentleman who was talking about the invisible fence after the fires. He was looking into that technology because replacing all of the fence lines were going to be super expensive. So he was looking at that as an option for his fence line for fires.
Okay, Councillor McGee.
Thanks for the great
Deputy Reeve.
report. And I really appreciate the enthusiasm and the positive. It's a fantastic report. So thank you for attending and for finding all those great information. And I have to also put in my own little plug, I guess would be, an accurate word. I really appreciate that our Open Farm Days event in Trochu was so well received and has got such recognition. I just really want us to emphasize this is a direct outcome of economic development working with our ag services. And so both of that was a conscious thing that was done by our community because of both of those departments doing a lot of work. And I think that is part of the piece I want to be recognized, that though we put a lot of time and effort into things, sometimes we don't see our outcomes. What did you get? You got a provincially recognized event that is serving our ag businesses. Sorry, little ad there, little advertisement.
I said, your plug. All right. We'll move on then to 9.2, which was the BREWD launch event in Olds. Comments from those who attended? Okay, Councillor Forbes.
I do enjoy going to events because the purpose of me going to this one is to see what BREWD's going to do to move economic forward for not just like counties, but for businesses. And that's what's really great about what I've seen here. I will look forward to all of the volunteers that they have enlisted to go around to the businesses to find out the information that that they collect. I am also going to ask a question in here, which is, I know that as a county, we had done something similar to this with our local businesses. Do we know when that report might be coming back to us?
So was that the Wild Rose Community Futures labor report thing? And I know Mr. Gannon, you were involved in that along with Ryan from the town of Three Hills, correct? So do we have information on what's the outcome or what's happening with that?
Thank you, through the chair. I know that the program was finalizing one aspect of it, but was also continuing another aspect, but I will come back to council with more information on how that program went forward. We did have some difficulties locally to get participation. I know that was one of the conversations and lessons learned through that, but I'll make sure economic development looks at that and has conversations with Community Future so we know where that program stands.
Perfect, thank you.
I think one of the things that we will encounter with the BREWD initiative is, as we're talking to people who perhaps participated in that other survey, they'll be asking about results. And I think it's important that some of these things take a long, long time to happen, but people need to see progress. And so one of the things would be reporting back on what the outcomes might have been or potentially will be going forward. So, go ahead, Councillor McGee. Deputy Reeve McGee, sorry.
No worries. I really appreciate everybody attending to it. I had the organizer comment on how she really appreciated that Nehill County was there to participate in such a large force, and she thinks she was just really appreciative of the fact that we all are taking interest in being informed and be part of the, just to give people more indication of what the day was about. It basically was the launch of the survey, so no one was able to access the survey until that day, and it was more to promote the survey being done and what it's about. We had great guest speakers, and I think it's important to note that our speakers, including our MLA Cooper, but also Red Deer Polytech and Olds College, because they are a part of this program, bought into this program, because they want to create opportunities for the workforces we need to be developed out of their programs through this work. So the outcomes is far outreaching the specific microscopic things we are hoping for each of our residents and business owners. They're also to the region area, of which will then hopefully contribute people coming into our area with the skills that we need. And so I think that's a very exciting piece that was well emphasized in there. Just for people to understand, BREWD stands for Business Retention, Expansion, Workforce Development. Nehill County has signed up for the first 3 pieces. It's a 2-part program that's going to take months and months to do. We signed up for the first part of the program, which is the Business Retention Expansion part. The Workforce Development part we did not sign up for because of that other $5,000 we had spent that we just talked about. Yeah. Just so there's clarity there is not overlap. That we are doing 2 separate things here, because it could get confusing, and I wanted to just clarify that. Please know we need every business, every smallest farmer to home business to great huge manufacturers that we have. Please participate. The more data we have, the better we can make great outcomes. The outcomes are only as great as the data will give us information to form. And furthermore, Nehill County can't have the data that's going to be funneled into just Nehill County data unless we had 10% of our own businesses participate. So we really need to have that participation factor happening here for it to truly have the outcomes we're hoping this money brings. Remember that this is an opportunity to capitalize on somebody else putting the money into this project. This project has a grant that was received by the town of Olds. Town of Olds decided to use the grant for this BREWD program. We were invited, along with many other municipalities in the region, to participate. We had a nominal fee to be a participant. And for what we're going to get out of this, for our fee and our time, is going to be enormous in comparison to doing it to ourselves. I do immensely worry about the fatigue of surveys. Hopefully the piece where we have business owners asking business owners to be part of this shows that this is a truly hands-on thing about the business people, not about something on the shelf. And they are part of they are part of the planning committee. So they're going to be part of what moves forward from this event too. So I just am really hopeful that we can really see some great outcomes. But again, it only will happen if we have 10% of our businesses participating. So please promote it, councillors.
Okay, thank you for that, Deputy Reeve McGee.
Carrie.
Councillor Phobes, please.
So when you speak, Deputy Reeve, when you speak to the data that will be collected for our region, if we don't get the 10%, we'll still get regional information being passed to us. It just won't be specific to Nehill County.
Correct.
So just for clarity.
Thank you.
Councillor Penner.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend. Is this on our social media on the county? If it isn't, or if it isn't, I'm not sure. But if it isn't, we really make the ag producers, they are businesses, because usually they say business is like a shop, and they feel they're not shop, whereas we must really enforce this is not just for those shop businesses, as to say. This is for business people in ag, farmers, any kind of farm.
And to emphasize your point, the survey report will have ag business as a separate component of the report.
So it's really good.
So, one of the things in conversation I've had with our economic development officers was around identification of business and the difficulty sometimes that's involved there. And I think my encouragement to them was to talk to us as counselors about our own divisions, but not specifically our divisions, but the county as a whole around businesses. And then, I don't know how many of you have how many of these little cards, but everybody that I'm running into, I am saying, we are doing this, please participate. And the ones that I've talked to that are not only a farmer, but maybe they are a carpenter, they are a mechanic, they are something else, I'm encouraging them not only to do for their farm business, but their other business. Or not only for their other business, but also for their farm. And all it means is they have to take the survey on 2 different devices. Most people either have a iPad or a laptop or a phone, and so they can do the survey on 2 different devices. You can't do 2 surveys on the same. But I think it's important for us as counselors to be talking to the business people, and when I say that, I mean our farmers and other businesses within the county, to get them and encourage them to participate. So I ran out of my first supply of cards. I'm on my second supply, and thank you. Today I have a third supply. So, Mr. Gannon.
Thank you through the chair. I'd just like to answer a question that Councillor Penner mentioned is, yes, the BREWD project in its entirely is being advertised throughout all the participants, including ourselves. We do have it on our website. We have done it through social media, and we'll continue to make efforts to push the message. And farms to us are businesses as well. So we have incorporated that. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other comment, what I would be looking for, I guess, would be a motion to accept the council and committee reports as presented. Councillor Forbes?
So moved.
Okay, thank you for that. So we do have a motion to approve the council and committee reports as presented. Any further discussion? Mr. Hogan?
Through you, Mr. Reeve, not a direct discussion to what's been presented, but since the BREWD topic came up, I just did want to highlight for council's awareness that there was an article in the Three Hills Capital on this recently, and part of the article does state that the municipalities within Nehill County declined to participate in BREWD. Just wanted to make council aware that the villages were not in scope within that project. So if you do get questions out there about Carbon, Linden, Acme, they weren't within the scope of this. So it does make it sound like they declined to participate, but they weren't considered within the scope to begin with. So there's a clarification there just for council's awareness. Since we're talking about BREWD, I felt I would bring it up now.
That's very important.
Okay, good, thank you for that. All right, if there's no further discussion, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. The next item on our agenda is council follow-up action list.
Hang on 1 second. 9.3 CRMA.
Oh, yeah, Central Alberta.
I think I didn't add that to the agenda, or did I?
You did. Yeah, I thought you did.
Okay, sorry.
I thought it was going under 7,
Yeah.
but then we moved
Okay,
it to
9.3, okay.
So my bad, sorry, thanks for interrupting me. No, that's
And that was just an item for information, just so that you're
okay.
aware. Remember, I talked about the meeting in Pinoka on the 7th of February.
Okay,
I wasn't sure that all of council was aware that that meeting,
no.
and that's the general meeting for the Central RMA zone. I will not be there personally, as I'm away that week, and I have no intention of coming back for that meeting. It's my 1 week a year where I'm away and I turn my phone off and nobody, other than family, will be getting a hold of me. Maybe. All right. Sorry. What a bad attitude, eh? Okay, I've had a request for a 5-minute recess. So we're in recess to 11:50 a.m. We're in recess. Okay, it's 11:51. I'm going to call our meeting back to order. And we are at 10.0, council follow-up action list in our agenda. Are there any things on the action list that council would like to address with administration? Councillor Forbes, please.
Through the chair to Mr. Hogan, have we found a manager for the airport yet?
Mr. Hogan.
Through the Reeve, we have not. We've been in contact with both the town and Prairie. Actually, my last contact was not just a few days ago. So in that last contact that I made most recently, I asked the other parties about getting together to take a look at this or to explore, like, why haven't we had anybody at this point in time? What needs to be re-strategized around moving that forward? There is some work that needs to be done before that. The town did receive a grant to complement that position. So part of that re-strategy is wanting to ensure that we're not at jeopardy of losing that grant, which of course, as time goes on, we become more and more in jeopardy of that, right? So we haven't set a date for that meeting yet, but I have requested it. Just the last time was within a few days ago.
Someone asked me.
Deputy Reeve McGee.
Just a follow-up to the Travel Drumheller Innovation Collaboration Workshop. I was one of the ones that you have appointed, and I'm excited to be there. I think it's important for me to be there, but I just want you to know that I have to leave at 12:30 for a personal reason that has come up since you appointed me. So if you wanted to change that decision, I just thought I should be honest and let you know that that's what you're dealing with. I won't be there for the full day.
You'll be there.
Yep.
I think we're good.
So my question relates to the IDP meeting. Have we had answers back from our invitees, and do we know who is attending from the villages and or town?
I've received one from the town of Three Hills. They'll be sending one representative. I've not heard back from the village of Acme or the village of Linden. I did get a reply back from the village of Linden. Thank you for this, for the invite. Okay. But they haven't confirmed if they're bringing somebody.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Councillor Forbes.
Just further to that, through the chair, in my book, I have February the 13th that we're meeting with them. Just for clarity, please, because if we're not, I will take that out of my book.
Yeah, that's on the calendar for that date.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
And we probably are getting a little more information in a closed session
Okay, delightful. Thank you.
here shortly.
Appreciate it.
Okay. I was just curious more whether we're getting responses to our invitation or not.
Oh, fair.
Okay, if there's no other, I would entertain a motion to accept the council action list as presented, follow-up action list as presented. Councilor Christie?
So moved.
Okay, so motion is to receive for information the council follow-up action list as presented. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is closed session. We have closed session for intergovernmental relations, which is FOIP-Section 21, third-party business interests, FOIP-Section 16, and a second item under third-party business interests, FOIP-Section 16. I would entertain a motion to go into closed session. Councillor Cunningham?
I'll make the motion to move us into closed session.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have a motion at 11:55 to go into closed session. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Okay, we had a motion to come out of closed session at 12:43. We recessed to allow the return of the public. It is now 12:45, and I'll call the meeting back to order. We have one motion coming out of closed session that I would like to have someone make. Councillor Phobes, please.
I make the motion that council direct administration to request information from the village of Acme and Linden and the town of Three Hills prior to the February 13th, 2025 IDP meeting.
And just for my own, thank you very much, Councillor Phobes. For my own clarification, we are going to specify an earlier date than that in terms of receiving the information.
February 7th, sorry.
You read the motion that was there, I just want clarification on that.
Through Mr. Reeve, that's correct. We would ask for that information with enough time, with enough lead time to review it.
Yeah, because we have a council meeting prior to that, and that would be an ideal time to do that. Okay, so,
Do you need that to say the 7th instead of the 13th?
okay, so request information by February 7th?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Perfect. And that's delightful, since it's why.
We might want to. And just put in there for the February related, yeah, there we go, okay.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Forbes, your motion now reads that Council direct administration to request information by February 7th, 2025 from the villages of Acme and Linden and the town of Three Hills related to the February 13th, 2025 IDP meeting.
Delightful.
Okay, is there any discussion to that motion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And that motion is carried unanimously. There are no other items on our agenda. It is now 12:47 and our meeting is adjourned.